If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon, link is in the description.
Chapter 81, on to day 2. Once the officials are on the stage taking away the man now bound in chains, I am lifted into the air as thin arms wrap around me. Soren. Are you hurt anywhere? Auntie says as she hugs me tightly, looking down at me. I try to squirm out as the air is squished out of me. I turn to Sis for help, only for her to join the hug, squishing me more. After they calm down, we all sit in the stands as Auntie and Sis sit next to me protectively. They question me about how I'm feeling and I answer honestly for the most part. Cedric and Leon were both incredibly concerned for my well-being as well, which made me feel good since I haven't known either of them particularly long. After disappearing with the officials, Professor Flitwick returned with an upset face. Soren, the tournament chairman would like to speak with you. Auntie stands up first. Good, I will be having some words with him. I stand up as well with a wry smile. Flitwick doesn't look too keen on protesting her claim, he just turns around then follow me. We get up and follow him through the halls. Auntie keeps a hand on my back, obviously feeling I'm more shaken up than I actually am. Yes, I just murdered a man, but this isn't the first. Not only that, but he had it coming. Eventually, we reach large double doors and Flitwick knocks on them. They slowly swing open, magically revealing a tallish man with brown hair and a slightly handsome face. He smiles as we enter and gestures for us to sit. I am Laurent Martin, the chairman of the French Dueling Association and host of this tournament. He lowers his head. Let me start off by giving you my sincerest apology for letting this happen on my watch. He looks back up, meeting Auntie's eyes, and I see him visibly shiver. The matter is being investigated by the ministry as we speak. We have already handed him over. It was discovered he was a vampire, not human. The referee had been turned into a thrall. The second he says vampire, it clicks in my head. Oh, shit. I think to myself as I look away so nobody sees the surprise written on my face. How did he get past the charms? Auntie asks with a smile. Mr. Martin clears his throat. We don't know yet. We are currently investigating the other officials as well as Soren's other opponents. He turns to face me so I meet his gaze. That's why I have to ask. Would you like to continue in this tournament, Soren? I nod. I would like to, yes. Are you sure about that, Soren? Auntie asks me with concern. I give her a reassuring smile. I'm fine, Auntie. The chairman laughs. You have a strong son, ma'am. Auntie sighs as she grips my shoulder caringly, perhaps too strong. I blush a bit being called her son, but I smile a bit. I can feel the darkness in the back of my head nagging at me, reminding me that I'm living a lie. I am not her son, I'm not even her nephew. I snap out of it as I remember something. I look up at the chairman. If I may ask, why does it seem like every person in my tournament bracket is from the same 5 Eastern European countries? And why am I the first seed? I haven't even entered a dueling tournament. He looks a bit confused. The bracket placements are all random except for seeded placements. As for why you are first is because the British and Bulgarian chairman fought hard for you. Considering your accomplishments at your age, it's a fair assessment as well. I shrug. This feels incredibly set up. I feel as though wizards are lacking in common sense. Am I lacking in common sense as well? It looks like your next duel isn't until Wednesday morning. It looks like you have time to relax. I'm sure you'll need it after that event. Chairman Martin's words snap me out of my thoughts. I just smile and nod. Thanks, Chairman. I turn to Auntie. Is there anything you want to do since I'm free? I ask. Well, we haven't explored the magical side of Paris yet, Auntie says after thinking for a second. There you have it. I'll write down the instructions for you now. The chairman pipes up as he pulls out a piece of paper and starts writing immediately. I sigh as we walk out. I am glad Auntie didn't blow up on the chairman. While yes, it is his fault, in the end, there is only so much you can expect in the end. When we get back to the arena, the duels have already begun again and Cedric and Leon are gone to their second duels for the day. We manage to find Sis and Flitwick together just talking. We explain what was said and Sis said that she would put in a request to help with the investigation. Though I personally doubt that it will be accepted as she is still an apprentice under Shacklebolt. The 4 of us end up going around all day buying small knickknacks and going out to eat at nice restaurants. It took a lot of convincing to get Professor Flitwick to join us, but I didn't want to be the only male, so I really laid into him. I felt a bit bad guilt-tripping him, but shopping alone with 2 women sounds awful. Both Cedric and Leon won their matches handily. I got to hang out with them when I returned that night. They stayed over that night, but we couldn't play the SNES that I brought because there was too much magic around. They each had their fights late in the day, so the 8 of us went out for a late breakfast. It would have been a normal breakfast but Leon refused to wake up early. Once he got up a lot of places had started serving lunch. I think Sin was enjoying the food here more than me. It seems like he is getting used to cooked food. Sis was not pleased but she got over it. After we ate we ended up walking around the tournament area for a long while. We watched the duels every so often, especially the first bracket duels. Speaking of that, they still hadn't gotten in touch with me despite it being almost a full day. That evening Leon had his match first so we went to watch him first. Unlike the last time, he struggled a bit but still ended up winning. The person he faced this time was the 6th seed so it makes sense it was a hard fight. In a similar vein, Cedric's fight was also against a seeded duelist, the 10th seed. The duel was pretty close but ended the same way as the first. Lightning. Poor guy expected it but still ended up shocked. After they won their first rounds we all went out to dinner again. There was no shortage of great restaurants. I feel lucky I don't live here. The great food added to my mass of money would have me obese in a month tops. The next morning the French ministry came to take my statement of what happened. I told the exact truth except I said I dodged the killing curse and not that a Lethifold that rests on my neck is responsible for blocking it. Since I had a duel today I had to check in the second I got done giving the statement. My duel wasn't until 10:30 but I didn't want to be late. Not only that Cedric and Leon's last fights were today at the same time. Even if they lose they will have the final round in the evening. I see Professor Flitwick waiting for me at the entrance as I approach Yo. I say walking up taking my time. He huffs at my casual look. I hope you won't be this laid back in the duel, Mr. Black. Even if you are talented, one slip up will lose you the round. I shrug. I'm in a good mood. This week has been fun, what can I say? He smirks a bit. Only you would be able to survive an attempted murder and proceed to call it a fun week. He shakes his head as he gestures for me to follow him in. I look at the clock and it reads 10:15. I take in a sharp breath. Yeah, we should hurry up. The investigators kept me longer than expected. Chapter 82, Second Duel. I step into the lower Colosseum to see Sis, an auntie in the crowd. I wave at them as I turn to my opponent. He is someone I saw duel yesterday. He won both matches with only a few spells so I don't know how good he is but he must at least be competent. I smile and approach my opponent before we go up. Hey, I'm Soren, I hope we have a good duel. I extend a hand to shake. He raises his nose at me with a disgusted expression. It will be a short duel. My smile falls. I'll make sure of that. I turn and walk away as I think to myself, this man just earned himself an up down left right AB start. I sigh as I reach Flitwick and face the kid again. At least he looks 15 or 16 and not 30 like the last one. I watch the current fight as two skilled duelists exchange spells. I still feel frustrated that everyone in my bracket seems so talented. Nothing I can do about it though. The fight quickly ends as he misjudges the opponent's spell and gets flung off the stage. The new referee raises his left arm. The winner is Petro Boyko. The winner quickly walks off the stage with a smug smile. The referee nods. Next duelists may come up. Flitwick pats my back. Good luck, Mr. Black. He says with a jolly smile. I return his smile as I nod and walk up the stairs to the stage, eyeing my opponent as I do. He is pretty tall for his age, around 170 centimeters, with Middle Eastern features, tan skin. The only standout thing about him is that he is skinny and very lanky. We both get up to the stage and stand across from each other. I give him a dull look as I turn my gaze to the referee, gesturing for him to get on with it. The referee looks between the two of us. Are you both ready? He asks with a judging look over the both of us. We both nod our heads and he continues. All spells are allowed except the unforgivable ones, you know the drill. Wands ready? We both ready our wands, glaring at each other. Turn and step 15 paces. We both do as we are told and step heel to toe 15 paces, stopping on the 15th step. Seeing us both stop, the referee yells begin. Both of us turn but I'm quicker. Not wanting to show mercy, I instantly start casting. Conf Ringo. Stupefy. Bob Elias. I chain 3 spells together, causing him to step back further and further, nearly falling off the edge as he blocks the yellow lightning. My max chain is 4 spells, but I don't want to show that off until the last rounds of the tournament. Perhaps I could have won right there had I pushed it. But this guy was rude to me, so I will make sure it is quick either way. Conf Ringo. Conf Ingo. He casts twice as I charge forward, chantlessly blocking both, pointing my wand at the ground with a grin. Glacis Duo. I feel my body strain as the powerful ray of ice leaves my wand. With the ray, I paint a path towards the arrogant string bean. His eyes widen as he casts a protego so powerful you can see the sheen from the shield it produces. Frost covered his shield, creating a half-sphere in front of him. I grinned, seeing that my plan worked. Now that he could no longer see me with the ice in his way, I again chain my spells. Expulso, expulso, expulso. 3 explosions ring out nearly simultaneously, causing ice to be sent out like shrapnel in all directions. Once the smoke clears, I see the string bean laying on the ground unconscious, and a grin grows on my face. The referee raises his arm. Soren Black wins the first round. Check your schedule for the next round. I smirk as I walk off the stage to Flitwick, who is happily clapping. Excellently done, young Soren. I smile wider. This was actually pretty fun and semi-challenging, thanks. It was a quick fight, but he was actually pretty strong. I say as we begin to walk up the stairs into the stands where Sis and Auntie are. Auntie grabs me first. Great job, Soren. Where did you get so strong? Sis chimes in, yet, where did you get so good at magic? I give a small chuckle with a wry smile. Lots of practice. Sis rolls her eyes. My words are more true than she will ever know, so many sleepless nights have passed with me practicing till dawn. Anyway, let's go see if Cedric and Leon are done yet, I say, changing the subject. They nod and we all head over to the second stage since it's the closest. We see Cedric and his opponent are still fighting, so we find an open seat and sit down. Classic Cedric is casually blocking and deflecting everything sent at him, only retaliating when open. His opponent looks slightly younger but is doing really well at chaining spells together. Stupefy, stupefy. Cedric reflects one into the air and then another right back to him. He is caught off guard and falls backward as he is barely able to block it. Immobilis. Cedric casts as he is still trying to get up, catching him. Expelliarmus. Cedric hits the now defenseless opponent, causing his wand to fly off the stage. The referee raises his arm. The winner is Cedric Diggory. He will advance to the next stage of the competition. Mr. Hilton pats Cedric's back as we cheer for him. As I'm about to go down and congratulate him, I hear a voice behind me. Looks like we are too late. I turn to see Leon coming out of the tunnel to my back right. So did you win? I ask in a sarcastic tone. Leon rolls his eyes. Of course, who do you think I am? He says with a confident smile. I turn back to the stage to see Cedric coming our way. We both wave at him. Looks like I'm the only one left to pass the stage. Cedric laughs as Leon speaks up. You did win your round, right? I take up a haughty tone as I puff out my chest. Who do you think I am? I say, putting on a fake German accent. He laughs as Cedric looks confused. I won pretty quickly. I used brute force at that. When's your next round? Cedric asks as everyone begins to group around us. 3:30. I turn to Auntie and the coaches. Do you guys want to go to lunch? They look at each other and shrug. After going out to lunch, we came back for my final match. I stood at the bottom of the stage waiting for 3:30 with Professor Flitwick. 3:25 came around and my opponent still wasn't here. I looked at the referee, but he looked like he could care less. Waiting another 5 minutes, he still didn't show up. I walked onto the stage while waiting. So what happens if he doesn't show up? I asked the referee. He sighs. He has a 5-minute grace period. If he still isn't here, then you will win by default. My eyes narrow. How anticlimactic. Sure enough, 5 minutes pass and he doesn't show up. The winner of this match by elimination is Soren Black. You will move on to the next stage of the competition. I walk off the stage with a dull look, unhappy with the outcome. Leon and Cedric, who are standing behind Flitwick, look bored from waiting as well. Looks like I scared him off, I say with a cheeky grin. They smirk at my joke. Maybe. Maybe not. Either way, it's a free win. Leon adds. So are you returning today or tomorrow? I ask Leon. Today. My family will want to see me and celebrate my win together. He says, a bit exhausted. I look at Flitwick. Are we going back today? He shakes his head. We will be returning tomorrow morning. As he finished his words, Auntie and Sis made their way to us. Good, because we have things to discuss, Auntie says with a slightly serious face. I gulp. What did I do? I killed someone, but that was 2 days ago. I doubt she would just now get mad at me. Cedric nods as well, seemingly knowing something I don't. Fuck. My thoughts go wild on the possibilities. Later that night in Soren's room. Auntie Dromeda, Sis Dora, and Cedric sit in a semicircle around Soren. Auntie is the one to speak first. She points at my neck with a serious expression. What is that? Chapter 83, The Reveal of Sin. I step back with a surprised expression. What do you mean? Sis speaks up. Don't try to lie, we saw it move when that man attacked you. Cedric said it saved him when he almost fell out of the portkey. I unwrap Sin from around my neck and hug him like a blanket. I glare at Cedric. You snitched. He holds up his hands defensively. They interrogated me. Don't blame your friend, we saw it anyway. Just tell us what it is. Auntie says, sitting closer. He is my friend, I say, putting Sin on my lap. He. Sis and Auntie repeat in sync. I nod. I picked him up when I moved to London, he protects me. He helped me defeat the troll and the dark wizard in the forest. I stroke Sin as I speak, who does a happy shake. I hold him up a bit, letting him move freely as he wraps around my arm. I named him Sin. Cedric and Auntie both approach warily while Sis stays back with a thinking look. May I pet him? Auntie asks as she stands only a foot away. I nod. Sure, he likes to be pet. Auntie reaches out a hand and softly strokes the top of Sin where a corner is hovering an inch above my hand like a head looking up. Sin pulls away a bit but lets her stroke him as he wraps tightly around my arm. Auntie smiles seeing Sin shirk back a bit. Cedric looks a bit jealous. May I? He asks. I just nod at him and gesture Sin more towards him. He pets Sin as well with a smile. Thanks for saving me. Sin unravels a bit at his words and hovers above my arm, nodding his head. Cedric's smile widens as I hear Sis's voice. Soren. You know what, he is right. I look at her defensively as I pull Sin closer. Yes. I do. And? Auntie looks at Sis curiously. What is it? Then her eyes turn to me. He is a Lethifold, I say, hugging Sin. Auntie looks confused. What is a Lethifold? Sis sighs. It's not a surprise you've never heard of them, they are insanely rare creatures. They haven't been studied, hell, they have only had one recorded sighting. Auntie's eyes narrow. Why so low? Sis laughs a bit as she looks at the creature purring in my embrace. Because they have a 99.7% kill rate. Only one person has ever survived a Lethifold attack, and that was because he mistook it for a Dementor in the darkness. Auntie shivers a bit as she unconsciously takes a step, backing away from Sin. Sin doesn't eat people anymore. I pipe up in Sin's defense. Anymore? Cedric asks as he backs away. They are considered more dangerous than dragons. They are immortal, they cannot die. The only thing you can do is use your patroness to suppress them and slow them. They are one of the 11 creatures Aurors are told to never approach alone. Sis says with a grim face. Now you're just trying to scare them. I say with indignation. Well, it is scary, Soren. Sis yells back. Just sounds like you're a scaredy cat Auror, I mutter with narrow eyes. Auntie sighs. Well, obviously it isn't a normal Lethifold. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so docile, right Nymphadora? Auntie says, giving her mild eyes and raised brows. Score one, Auntie, I think to myself. I told an autocall meth that. I hear Sis quickly mutter under her breath angrily. She sighs. Yeah, I'm sure you're right. What do you feed him, Soren? They are carnivores after all. Her words earned her a glare from Auntie. I rub my chin. I usually just let him catch mice or give him a leg of lamb. He really likes turkey legs from the Great Hall when they have it. When we went to the restaurant yesterday, I gave him the frog from my food since I didn't like it. Sis puts her head in her hands. I just realized you have been bringing him to Hogwarts. I scoff. Well, day. How would he protect me and stay with me if I left him at home? PFT, dummy. Auntie chuckles a bit at my sarcasm. Mom, how can you laugh? Soren is walking around with an XXXXX level thread around his neck. Well, it obviously won't hurt him, he has already had it longer than a year. With Soren's luck, he needs something protecting him. Only a year he has been with us and he has been attacked 3 times? He needs a guardian angel. Auntie says, looking over at Sin, who is resting in my arms. I lean closer to Sin. You hear that? You got promoted to a guardian angel. I whisper jokingly to Sin. Sis sighs. Fine, you are right about that. I'm sure you won't tell anyone, but I need to ask. Can you keep this a secret, Cedric? I ask Cedric, who is sitting across from me. He nods his head seriously. Of course. He saved my life, after all, it's the least I could do. I give him a smile. Thanks. Cedric nods but still looks a bit scared of Sin. Can I speak to Soren alone? Sis says, looking at Cedric and Auntie. Auntie and Cedric walk out of the room without saying anything. Let's go get your mentor, we can start making dinner, Auntie says as Cedric nods and walks out first. I turn to Sis, who is giving me a serious look, not moving her gaze from my eyes. Soren. Sis, I say with a fake serious voice. Answer me seriously this time. She says leaning forward. I nod. I'll do my best. Are you the next Dark Lord? She says with such a serious face I feel the urge to laugh bubble up. After my initial feeling of laughter, I begin to think about her words. I plan to make a giant wizard tower to keep my Dementor. I am abnormally talented in dark arts magic. I think of the fact I am actually a giant Dementor king that can control other Dementors and hide as a human. Not only that, I have a pet Lethifold, which are notoriously terrifying creatures. In fact, the title probably fits me better than Voldemort. To anyone else other than me it may seem like I am some type of evil being praying for other people's kindness. Maybe I am. I shake my self-deprecating thoughts off quickly as I think of all my good points. Of which there are too many to list off. I take a deep breath as I look into her eyes. I am not the next Dark Lord. If anything, I'll be the hero who stops him. She looks into my eyes trying to find a lie. After a few seconds she sighs. I'm sorry, Soren. I trust you. Even if you said yes, I would stay by your side. You're my brother after all. She says with a soft smile. I smirk. You know me, sis, I don't like the prejudice of the other nobles. But seriously, first Rita, then you, then Dumbledore, and now you again? Am I that untrustworthy? Sis laughs a bit. Dumbledore, you say? Yet, he said my talent reminded me a lot of Voldemort back when he was a kid, I say in an annoyed tone. She hugs me unafraid of sin on my lap. How could he say that? My little brother is far more talented. I know, right? I say with a jokingly cocky tone. She pulls away and smacks the side of my head. Come on, let's go get dinner. Sin will get a portion this time. I smile as I put Sin around my neck and follow close behind. Chapter 84, Return to England. The next morning I say goodbye to Sis and Auntie as Cedric, Flitwick, and I grab onto our porte-cayette. This porte-cayette was specially made by the chairman himself because of the incident coming in. The world spins around us as we fly into the air. Like any well-made porte-cayette, we reach Hogwarts in a few seconds, slowly falling to the ground softly. I sigh as I look up at the familiar castle. It has only been a week, but it has felt like forever. A stressful week to say the least. Flitwick happily waves his wand, causing the bags to float behind him. All right, boys, I know you are both probably still excited, but things will be returning to normal until the next rounds. That means you have to go to class tomorrow. He has a wide happy grin as he speaks. Cedric and I nod as he walks up the bridge entrance first, while we look at each other for a second before following him up. Once we get up the main stairs, we can see students gathered in the courtyard doing random things. Mostly studying. I say goodbye to Cedric and Flitwick before I walk through the main entrance and head up the stairs to the Gryffindor dorms. I walk up to the painting of the fat lady, who gives me a bright smile as I approach. Password? She asks, singing the word. Wampus Boggles, I say with a sigh. Her smile drops. Incorrect. My face falls in return as I drop my bag. Oh come on, you know me. She holds her nose high looking down at me. But do you know the password? Not at the moment. No, I say with an annoyed scowl. She scoffs. Then how do I know you aren't a fake? You are not allowed in without the password. Ugh. I pick up my bag and turn around. Lunch started an hour ago, so I just go there. Walking into the Great Hall, I see Hermione, Daphne, Katie, and one I have only heard of recently, Faye Dunbar. I walk up behind Hermione and tap her shoulder. She turns around with a confused face, but it brightens when she sees me, Soren. She quickly stands up and gives me a hug. I hug her back. Hey Hermione. She pulls back as she looks at my bag before I can say anything else. Why do you have your luggage in the Great Hall? She asks, confused. I hold up a finger gesturing for her to wait for a second. I look at Daphne as she looks like she wants to say something. Hello Daphne. Welcome back, Soren. She says with a small smile. I look back at Hermione. That's what I'm here about. I can't get into the dorm without the password to put my stuff back. It's bogtail right now, Faye says out loud. Katie smacks her shoulder. You're not supposed to say it out loud like that. Faye shrugs. Daphne won't tell, right? She asks with a grin. Daphne quickly shakes her head. See? Faye says, grinning back at Katie. I just smile at their interaction. So where are Ron and Harry? I ask Hermione. She sits back down. Harry is at practice, Ron is still on with his boys' group things. Dean, Seamus, and Neville are with him in the common room. I laugh a bit. That sounds awful. Daphne and Hermione both chuckle. Doesn't it? Hermione chirps. I wave a hand. I'm going to go settle back in, I'll see you later. The girls nod and wave at me as I walk away. Once I get back to the entrance, the portrait swings open, revealing exactly as Hermione had said. Sitting around a small table, 4 boys were taking turns playing wizard's chess. They all turned to me, notified by the portrait swinging open. Hey, I say, putting a hand up to them. Soren. Ron and Dean say first. Who's winning? I ask, walking up behind Neville, who is the one currently playing against Ron. Who cares about that? How did the duels go? Seamus asks, scooting over on the couch so I can sit. I sat down next to him. Well, I beat my first opponent really bad. Then the second one I beat so bad he dropped out of the tournament. I obviously avoid all the bad things that happened. As expected of the resident reverse bully. Ron says with a big proud smile. Reverse bully? I ask in a confused tone. Yeah, since you are always saving people and stopping bullies. He says with a smug grin. You mean like a hero? I ask questioningly. The others seem confused by what he means as well. Well, no need to get big-headed, is there? He asks, looking offended. What? But you never mind. I'm going to put my stuff away. Once I get back, you guys wanna go eat? I ask, looking between Neville and Dean since they have been quiet. Neville shrugs. Sure. Dean says. But the girls are at lunch now, Ron says as Seamus looks away. What's wrong with the girls? I ask. Ron looks confused. They are girls. I look at Seamus. Talk some sense into him, please. I agree with him, Seamus says with a bitter tone. My face falls. I'm surrounded by idiots. When does Harry get out of practice? I ask Ron. 12 I think. He says, looking at the clock on the mantel above the fireplace. We can go then, I guess. But that won't give us much time to eat. I say, looking at Dean. Dean shrugs. I don't mind going without these two. I look at Neville. I don't mind either. He looks warily at Seamus and Ron as he answers. Traitors! Ron exclaims. I just smirk. Cool, we will go to lunch once I put everything away. I turn around quickly, not letting them refute, and go up to the dorms to sort out my clothes again. We end up getting to lunch around 11:30 to catch the girls for a few minutes, with Harry joining us not long later. It was nice to sit and talk to them again. Almost dying is stressful after all. The next day I had to work extra hard to catch up. Although I did the homework beforehand and already had a vague idea of what was covered, doesn't mean I learned anything. Potions class was easy since I'm pretty good at figuring out the reactions between different ingredients. The difference in fractions based on if a solid was granulated, liquefied, or sliced was pretty easy since I took chemistry in my old life. But magic ingredients can act weird sometimes, so I often have to reference the books. Herbology was fine since we are still covering plants with relation to mandrakes. Defense against the dark arts was the worst. I didn't miss any spells other than Diffindo, which I can already cast. The thing that sucked was Lockfart's stupid quiz about his trip to Africa. I feel like everything about his trip to Africa was just fabricated. I find it too hard to believe this idiot of a man managed to fend off an undead by himself to defend a village. I feel like he would be more likely to run away than to fight it. Finally, Charms was pretty easy as I had missed literally nothing. It was pretty fantastic. But once class ended, Flitwick grabbed me at the door with a solemn face and said, I need a moment of your time. Walking into his office, he sat down quietly as he took a deep breath. I have some bad news to tell you. I am taken aback by the seriousness in his tone. Yes. Your final opponent from the duel tournament was found dead in his hotel room, murdered. The tournament has been delayed until further notice and you are under investigation. Flitwick says with a calm expression. Chapter 85, Mysterious Death. I put my hands up defensively. I didn't do anything. Under Flitwick's sorrowful glare. Flitwick shakes his head. Of course, I believe you, but the investigators will be here in a few days. Dumbledore has already arranged your meeting with them. Dumbledore will supervise it himself. I nod. So then what will they ask me? Will it be just basic stuff like last time? No, they are bringing Aurors to interview you this time. It may be a bit harsh considering your age, but this is the first time in nearly 50 years that a death has happened in the national dueling tournament. He says with a grim face. Thanks for the heads up, Professor, I say with appreciation. He nods. Of course, I don't want you to get caught off guard by this. After our small chat, I leave his office with a little bit of worry. Although I didn't do anything, there are plenty of things they could find about me by accident. If they check my wand's cast spells I can play it off as dueling I guess. That night I decide to tell Ron, Harry, Hermione, and Daphne about the murder and that I was being investigated. They all took it pretty well, none of them believe I could have done it, which is very wrong, but I didn't do it, so it's nice they believe in me. The next morning after transfiguration I am the talk of the school. I am curious how so many people heard about the investigation. I knew none of the four would go around blurting it, but it made sense when Hermione caught up to me. Soren. I hear Hermione's voice behind me. I turn around to see Hermione behind me with a newspaper in her hand. Hey Hermione, what's the rush? I ask calmly. She shoves the newspaper into my chest. Did you not see the paper? You're the talk of the school. I nod, having already heard people talking behind my back. I grab the paper to see the headline. Rita was right? The next Dark Lord. By Dempster Wiggleswade. Over a year ago Rita Skeeter wrote an article speculating that a young boy, Soren Black, was the coming of the next Dark Lord. At the time all she had was rumors of his talent in the dark arts. But as of October 6, 1992, our very own champion of Britain, Soren Black, was implicated in the murder of his duel opponent at the 1992 International Dueling Tournament. This comes after the confirmed killing of his previous opponent. Although the first killing was ruled self-defense, this second raises the question. Was the first one really self-defense? The French Ministry of Magic certainly doesn't think so. They are sending their finest investigative team of aurors to Britain this weekend to interrogate the future Dark Lord. Will the heir to House Black be found guilty before he can even claim the family as his own? Will he be found to be just a third party uninvolved in the murder? I don't know, but I can tell you this, he is not innocent. My face scrunches as my mood sours reading the article. What fucking slander! I didn't kill him, I didn't even see him after the first time we fought. Hermione looks more upset than me. How could they even write something like that? The investigation isn't even started and they already say you aren't innocent. I sigh. Most of the students are already afraid of me anyway. It's not a big deal, as long as I have my friends and family I don't mind what everyone else thinks. Of course Soren, you're our friend. She says, putting a hand on my shoulder. I smile. Hopefully the others think the same. They will. She says confidently. We walk together to lunch to see Theo, Ron, Harry, and Daphne sitting together surrounded by students asking them questions. As Hermione and I approach, the crowd scatters like scared rats. I glare at them as they run away with an annoyed face. Theo stands up first. Hey, did you see what the Daily Prophet said about you? I nod. Yeah, I know. I can't believe they would just lie like that. You wouldn't just kill someone. He says with a bitter face. I give a wry frown. It isn't a lie, I did kill my first opponent. His, Ron, and Harry's eyes go wide as Daphne gasps. I gesture for him to sit. I'll explain the situation, sit please. I spend the next 10 minutes explaining how my opponent turned out to be a vampire, how my referee was a thrall, how the mentor was a vampire as well, and how they tried to kill me using the killing curse. The mentor was eventually incarcerated since they couldn't get him to tell any secrets. He will be in prison until he gives them information or dies of old age. Which can be a long time for vampires since most aren't truly immortal. I wasn't told until yesterday that my opponent had been murdered. If not for him telling me I wouldn't have learned until you did. I want to know how the Daily Prophet learned of it so fast. I say, rubbing my chin. Will you get expelled? Hermione asks with concern. Daphne, Harry, Ron, and Theo nod, watching me, waiting for a reply. I shake my head. Of course not, Dumbledore likes me too much, I'm his best student after all. I may have to expel you, Dumbledore says in a tired voice. I sit across from him in his office, he called me to it after classes were out for the day. I stare at him blankly, having obviously not seen this coming. What do you mean, headmaster? How can you expel me? I haven't even done anything. I say with obvious anger. He shakes his head slowly. The Board of Governors, as well as the Ministry, are pressuring me to get you out of Hogwarts. The outcry from parents today is more complaints than I have ever received since my stay as headmaster. Why don't you just suspend me then? Just send me home until this whole thing blows over. Then once everything calms down and my name is cleared, you can bring me back. I say, trying to be diplomatic. He strokes his beard as he leans back, thinking that would work. I did not foresee this, so I cannot offer much help, but I will try my best to convince the Ministry and Board. After the interview with the aurors you will pack your bags and leave for an undecided amount of time, is that fair? I nod my head quickly. I gotcha, headmaster. I'll be sure to clear my name quickly. He softly nods. I didn't believe you were guilty for a second, Soren. Although I am old, I am still capable enough to protect my student. At worst you will be expelled, you have my word. Thank you, headmaster. They don't have any ground to stand on for the accusations against me anyway. I'll be sure to make an appeal to the members of the board and the Daily Prophet. Although the ministry politics may interfere, they will still go with public opinion even if it's wrong. I say thankfully. I hope you are right, young Soren. I hope you are. He says softly with a sigh. Chapter 86, The Interrogation. The next few days there was a lot of tension throughout the school. Students would part like a sea as I made my way through the halls. The only people who would talk to me are my friends and the weird girl Luna. Teachers stopped calling on me and I noticed Lockhart would flinch every time I got close. I hope he still flinches when I get proven innocent, it's entertaining. Flitwick and McGonagall checked on me a few times in the 4 days leading to the interrogation. Personally, I am fine, but I am concerned with how Sis, Auntie, and Uncle are doing. Uncle works in the ministry and I'm sure some of them know I live with him. I am banned from sending letters until the investigation is over to keep from potential collusion. I wake up a bit earlier than usual since I am to meet in the headmaster's office at 8 am. At 6:30 I wake up and get ready. I head to breakfast at 7 am alone since the only person awake is Hermione and she is busy with homework, so I won't bother her. I sit down and eat, seeing the head table for the teachers empty except for Snape, who looks uninterested in what I'm doing. There are only about 15 other people in the Great Hall. Most students don't eat breakfast on the weekend and it only just started. After eating I walk out of the giant doors and bump into a dark-skinned man standing over 6 feet tall. He is wearing traditional African magic robes and a kufi. It's Kingsley Shacklebolt, Sis's mentor, an Auror. Ah, Soren, I was looking for you. His deep voice says as a smile spreads on his face. Kingsley Shacklebolt, right? Nice to finally meet you. I say, offering out a hand to shake. He laughs as he takes my hand, as mature as Miss Tonks says. I smile back, thanks. What are you doing here? Something with the investigation, I assume. He nods as he lets go of my hand. You are afforded a ministry official to watch the interrogation since you are a minor. Dumbledore doesn't count and Miss Tonks requested I go since she can't. I will be making sure they don't take things too far. Along with Dumbledore, of course. I nod. That sounds great. It's not like I'm guilty anyway, so it won't be a long interrogation. He nods as he pats my back. Good, good. I was afraid you would be nervous. It appears my worries were misplaced. Let's go then, as long as you are ready, of course. I shrug as I lead the way. I was about to go to the headmaster's office anyway. He follows alongside me up the stairs to the headmaster's office. Once we get to the top of the stairs I see McGonagall and Flitwick standing at each side of the closed door. They both look nervous but perk up as they see me and Shacklebolt. Good, I'm glad you found him, Flitwick says to Shacklebolt as they both approach us. I look up at McGonagall's worried face with a smirk. What are you worried about? It will be fine. She sighs. I hope so, Mr. Black. I don't want to see a promising young wizard's career end so soon. Flitwick chimes in. It's good that you aren't nervous. Remember to be aware of the answers you give. The Auror investigations have been known to be linguistic minefields of traps. No offense, Mr. Kingsley. Flitwick says, looking up at the man a solid 4 feet taller than him. He shakes his head. I agree with you, there are plenty of dishonest Aurors. I will make sure he doesn't fall into any traps. The door to Dumbledore's office rotates, revealing the path up. McGonagall walks in and we all wait patiently for her return. She comes back less than a minute later. They are ready for you. I nod and walk in with Shacklebolt close behind. Once we get inside we see Dumbledore sitting across from 2 men dressed in loose robes with suit jackets underneath. Shacklebolt and Dumbledore nod to each other in greeting while the 2 men stand up. One has a hooked nose that puts Snape's to shame, while the other one is fairly handsome with tan skin. The hooked nose has a thick beard with light brown hair, presumably to hide his lack of jawline. The other one has a strong brow adorned with bushy brows that match his dark hair. They each stand up and take turns shaking Shacklebolt's hand, ignoring me, only giving me a small glare. Dumbledore seems to take note as he raises a hand to them. This one is Mr. Abbott, Hooknose, and Mr. Chapel, Bushy Brows. They are the guests from the French ministry and the one who will be interviewing you, Soren. Come, sit. He gestures at a seat next to him as he scoots over. I calmly walk over and sit next to him while Shacklebolt pulls up a chair and sits on my left. I look between Shacklebolt and Dumbledore. I am probably the safest person in the world right now. An accomplished auror to my left and the world's strongest wizard to my right. I laugh at my own thought as Hooknose clears his throat, getting my attention. You know why we are here today, correct Soren? I nod. Of course, I have been briefed. My opponent was murdered while I was nowhere near and you want to try to pin it on me. Bushy Brows slams down a picture of the kid on the table. His name was Marius Urasa. A pure-blood wizard. The picture was of the kid with his family happily smiling and playing in the park. I hold my palms up and Hooknose sighs as he leans back in his chair. So you won't be admitting to your crimes? Considering I didn't do it, I would hardly say it's my crime. I say with raised brows. You are fairly mature for a kid. Bushy Brows speaks up with a snide grin. I shrug. You don't get recognized as a prodigy without a bit of maturity. You have quite the history of violence. Only 2 years in school and so many incidents have already happened around you. Says Hooknose. You have shown a lot of aggression to children of pure-blood families in the past. Bushy Brows continues from where his partner left off. I gesture between the two. I thought this was supposed to be a good auror, bad auror type of situation. Deflecting with sarcasm. Says Hooknose with raised brows. Shacklebolt holds out a hand, stopping them. Why don't you drop the insinuations and ask your questions? Bushy Brows gives him a quick glare as his eyes come back to me. Do you hate purebloods? He asks curtly. No, I say with a straight face. Then who do you hate? Hooknose asks, crossing his arms. I lean back as I think I don't know. Evil people, I guess? Child abusers. Where were you on the night of October the 5th around 9:15 p.m.? Bushy Brows asks, leaning forward. Around 9. I was just getting back from eating dinner with my family. Cedric Diggory and Leon Koenig can verify that I was with them until 10 p.m. that night. So 2 of your friends are your alibi? Hooknose says as a magic quill lifts from his jacket and begins to write on a pad. I shrug with an annoyed scowl. Why are you so hung up on me being the killer? Bushy Brows looks at Hooknose, who shrugs, gestures to go ahead. Bushy Brows pulls out a wristwatch from his inner pocket, which I am confused about until I notice it's a Muggle watch. My eyes narrow. A Muggle wristwatch? Your Muggle wristwatch? Bushy Brows corrects me. I pull up the sleeve of my robe, revealing the wristwatch I always wear despite not working here in Hogwarts. They aren't even the same brand. Mine is an Omega Seamaster 200 steel, a rare piece of art. That's a fake Rolex. Hooknose looks at me with a dull face. You think throwing around made-up words will get you off? I slap my forehead as I lean back into my chair. Holy shit, they're mentally ill. Is my last life repeating myself? I think to myself. Chapter 87, Suspension. After the interrogation, Shacklebolt and I walked out together. He had started defending me after I stopped answering their dumb, repetitive questions. When we walked out of the office, Dumbledore and the Auror stayed behind to hammer out details, but Dumbledore looked annoyed at how vehemently they accused me with no actual evidence. Outside the office, McGonagall and Flitwick waited for us, sitting nervously on 2 chairs on the left side of the hall. Seeing us come out, they both stand up and look at us with bated breath. How did it go? Don't keep us waiting. The emerald-robed woman asked. They have circumstantial evidence at best. I don't know how they managed to get this far in the investigation with so little. They are pushing the motive that Soren hates purebloods. They found a Muggle wristwatch at the scene and they believe it is his. That's preposterous. Soren doesn't take that thing off, Flitwick says as I gesture at my wristwatch to prove his point. Shacklebolt sighs. Not much we can do now. I think the French ministry will stop the investigations but keep him on the list of suspects. They both sigh as Shacklebolt looks at me. Do you have anything left to do? I was planning on taking you home. I rub my chin as I think I have to say bye to my friends and that's it. He nods. Then I'll wait for you at the bridge. I give the 3 of them a wave as I walk past. Well, I'll see you again when my name gets cleared. Hopefully soon. They stare at my back as I briskly walk down the spiral stairs. I quickly find Ron, Hermione, Neville, and Harry in the common room. I explain to them the situation and why they suspect me. All of them are pretty upset by the situation, but I reassure them it will be fine. I have plans for that. I can't find Daphne and Theo and I don't want to leave Shacklebolt waiting, so I just head down and decide I'll just send them a letter. Once I get to the bridge, I see Shacklebolt talking with Flitwick, presumably about me. They both turn to me once I'm near. You ready to leave, Soren? Shacklebolt asks. I nod as I pat my moleskin bag. Yup, got everything I need. He nods as he turns to Flitwick. Well then, goodbye for now. Hopefully, we can get this resolved soon. Flitwick sighs, I hope so as well. He turns to me, be safe Soren, I hope to see you soon. I smile, see you soon Professor. Shacklebolt and I walk to the end of the bridge until we cross the anti-apparition barrier. Shacklebolt holds out an arm, hold my sleeve tight Soren. I nod as I grab his sleeve. The world around us spins and warps like sheets in a washing machine. After a second or two it stops and we are standing in front of Auntie's house. I open the door before Shacklebolt can knock. Why knock? I live here. Inside Auntie and Uncle are sitting at the table talking about the newspaper in an angry tone. Not wanting to sneak around I speak up, I'm home, I'm with Mr. Shacklebolt. I hear him laugh behind me as I step in, you can just call me Kingsley, Soren. I shrug as I get blindsided by a hug from Auntie. Why are you here? Your next break isn't for another month. She says, not letting go of me for a second. I am suspended until the pressure gets off Dumbledore, then I'm heading back, I say, hugging her back. Is this about that daft investigation? She asks, pulling away, looking back at Uncle. I nod. The Hogwarts Council wants me out and the Ministry is backing them up. So rather than expelling me, he is suspending me until the investigation ends and my name is clear. Or until the Council lets up Lucius, that rat. Is this payback for you beating him up? She says with an angry face. It's fine, everything will be cleared up soon, I say, pulling away from her so I can go give Uncle a hug. He isn't big on hugs, but he looks like he has been worried about me. After I get them settled down I head upstairs as Auntie is getting tea and biscuits for Kingsley. I head into my room and look into the giant faux glass on my wall. I let out a sigh of relief as I see all of the figures are still obscure. But my anxiety spikes as I begin to count. The few from before have become a small army. Just from what I can count I can see at least 30. The forwardmost 4 are only slightly obscured, but I can't see features, so I assume they are just in England. Odd. Are there really this many people that want me dead? How? Then it dawns on me. The person I dueled must have been an actual assassin sent by the vampires or the sort. But how did they figure out it was me? The thoughts are beginning to annoy me as I sit on my bed and ponder. Voldemort is still out there, but he is just a soul without a husk right now, he can't be it. I shake my head, clearing the thoughts as I sit at my desk pulling out a quill and parchment. Dear Uncle Lucius. At this point, I feel a meeting is in order to clear the air about certain issues. I would prefer if this meeting was kept only between you and me. I would also request that you set up the where and when. I hope you can make it quick as time is a factor. Sincerely your nephew, Soren Black. Short and to the point. I think to myself as I fold up the parchment and put it inside an envelope. I quickly jot down the address as I hand it to Shai, who is sitting on top of the dresser beside me as usual. Shai plucks the letter from my hand and sits on the windowsill waiting for me to open it. I lean over, pushing it open, watching him fly away as I lean back in my chair. The trees look nice, I think to myself. I sigh as I pull out a new piece of parchment and unroll it onto my desk. We need to talk. Meet me in the forest behind my house Sunday night. Soren Black. I put it into an envelope and write Rita Skeeter's address on it and slide it into my desk for when Shai returns. Using Rita and Lucius I should be able to get public opinion back on my side. It isn't that I do not trust Dumbledore, but I would rather do it myself. Plus Lucius will have information that I need since he is a former Death Eater. Even if I am unconvinced he cut his ties, I'm sure something useful will come out of his mouth. If not, I'll force it out. Even by virtue of me being in trouble gives rise to the possibility that Auntie, Sis, and Uncle could be implicated. Not only that, Lucius may have additional books on Horcrux. I let out a big sigh as I lazily march over to my bed and plop down. What a mess. Chapter 88, to Malfoy Manor. A few hours later I hear Shai at the window, so I let him in. Inside his mouth, he is holding a black letter in his mouth that just has my name in white letters on it. I quickly open it and read his reply: tomorrow evening, 10 p.m., Malfoy Mansion. I nod after reading it and hand the other letter to Shai. I pat his head. Sorry for the workout, I'll be sure to get you some fresh mice next time we are out. Taking the letter, Shai quickly flies off once again. I quickly take my wand and burn the letter to avoid an awkward situation. I head downstairs to see Sis's home, and Shacklebolt is still here. Auntie is in the kitchen cooking not far away, while the other 3 are in the dining room sitting around the table talking. Soren. Sis hops up and gives me a hug before I can say anything. Hey, Sis, I say while trying to not be squeezed to death. I noticed she has changed her hair color to silver, it looks nice. I can't believe that old git actually suspended you. She says, pulling away looking at me. I shrug. I suggested it, better than being expelled. That's true, but still. She says with an angry glare across her seemingly glowing face. I guess she doesn't hide her real appearance around Shacklebolt. If anything, I feel bad for Lure. She is still at Hogwarts with Hagrid. She must be lonely. I told Hermione to keep her company, but it still sucks. I sigh as I sit down in the seat next to Sis. Speaking of Lure, you aren't planning on getting any more pets, right? I don't mind them, but if you do, I'll need to build a bigger pen. Uncle asks, looking at me with raised brows. I laugh a bit. No, I don't plan on it. He sighs. Good, I don't know if my back can handle it. Enough of that, I made some pasta for lunch, Auntie says, placing a plate in front of Shacklebolt and Uncle Ted. Shacklebolt gives a small smile. Don't mind if I do then, thank you. Auntie smiles. You're quite welcome. She turns to Sis and I. Come and make yourselves plates, I put some out for you too. After lunch, Shacklebolt left along with Sis as they had work to do. Uncle and I cleaned up while Auntie was writing a letter to a friend. We had a light dinner later that night and I finally got to go upstairs to see if Shy was back. Apparently, Auntie has yet to tell Uncle about Sin, which is why she gave me a second portion to take to my room. Sure enough, Shy had returned with a letter. I set Sin's food on the bed and grab the letter from Shy, who goes on top of the dresser again. I roll my eyes as I open the letter with Sin gobbling down the plate of food next to me. On the parchment is one word understood, only one word on the page. To be fair, it was really nice handwriting. I suppose that is all that was needed. I see Sin has already finished his plate of food since he is now resting on my neck. I pick up the plate and bring it downstairs, meeting Uncle, who is doing dishes in the kitchen. Finished a second plate already? He asks, surprised. I shrug. I'm a growing boy. He takes the plate and sets it in the sink. I supposed, geez. I gesture a what the heck motion to Auntie, who is on the couch. She just looks at me with an innocent look and doesn't meet my eyes. I roll my eyes as I head upstairs and turn off the lights, diving headfirst into my bed. The next day, once the time hit 9 p.m, I locked my door and operated in front of the Malfoy mansion. It was much closer than the north of Scotland, like when I visited the Red Sea to test my powers. I marvel a bit at the large mansion in front of me, but what impresses me, even more, is the number of wards laid around it. Although it's not near Sid's old wards on Azkaban, there are more and are more intricate, even if less powerful. As I get close to the gate, a familiar face greets me, the house elf Dobby. He glares at me, obviously not happy with the fact I am here. I am sure he is misunderstanding something. Master Malfoy has ordered Dobby to escort you inside, even though Dobby does not wish to. He says, irritated as he turns around and starts walking. I am unaffected by his rude tone. Are you the one who closed the entrance to the train platform to try and stop Harry? The one that almost got Harry and Ron almost killed? I ask in an annoyed tone. That was not Dobby's intention. I just wanted to keep Mr. Harry Potter safe. He says as his irritated face falls and he looks a bit scared. Safe from what? I ask, following close behind. Dobby cannot say. He says, clenching his little fist tight. I laugh a bit. I know, I remember our last conversation. Can you tell me if this meeting is a trap? Dobby looks at me with an odd gaze as he slows his walk. Dobby cannot say. He says very slowly, obviously meaning yes. I shrug. Whatever. Dobby snaps his fingers and the large twin doors to the mansion swing open, revealing an open main hall lined with bright candlelight. Narcissa and Lucius are standing there waiting for me with smiles. Like a kind of terrifying picture-perfect couple. I nod my head and do a curt bow. Mr. and Mrs. Malfoy, it's nice to see you. As I look up, I am smothered in Narcissa's chest, as it is much more abundant than Auntie's. Ah, Soren, I knew you would come around eventually. I just accept the hug and hug her back since I can't speak anyway. Lucius walks up and pats my shoulder. Indeed, it's good to see you again, boy. Once Narcissa pulls away, I can see his smile is very forced. It's nice to finally meet you, Aunt Narcissa. She grins widely as she looks at Lucius. You hear that, Lucius? He called me Aunt Narcissa, how sweet. Lucius nods as he turns around and nods me in. Come, boy, you wanted to speak. I nod, of course. He leads me through the halls as Narcissa sticks close to me. I feel like she is a genuinely kind person, but I can't tell if she is a good person. It is obvious though, she is the reason that Draco is the way he is. We eventually reach a large meeting room with a table about 20 feet long with numerous chairs lining the sides. Lucius sits at one side while I sit opposite. Narcissa sits at the head in between the both of us. I close my eyes and search for souls throughout the house. My face falls after, but I quickly recover my smile. Seeing Narcissa hold Lucius's hand, I smirk. You are lucky, not many get love out of arranged marriages. Lucius and Narcissa look a bit awkward. We actually were not close until he got back from Azkaban. Yes, we had Draco, but we weren't really in love, but now it is different. I nod. I forgot, you used to be a Death Eater, right? Tell me, how is the Imperious Curse? I'm sure it must have been difficult. He gives me a serious look as Narcissa looks uncomfortable. It was a traumatizing experience. Ahoy, and what of the 2 Death Eaters in the room adjacent? I ask calmly. His face falls as Narcissa looks shocked at the accusation. Chapter 89, The First Servant. Narcissa turns to Lucius. We haven't had any contact with other Death Eater families in years, right? She asks, looking at Lucius, who still has a hard face. Her eyes narrow. Right? He must be mistaken. Her tone is a bit desperate. Enough. Leave. He says, not facing her but meeting my eyes instead. No. She says, obviously getting ominous vibes from Lucius. Leave us. He yells, causing her to flinch. She slowly stands up, looking at me with a sorry gaze. She puts a hand on my shoulder as she walks by. We can talk later, Soren. My opinion of the woman shoots up as I nod to her. She may be racist, but she doesn't seem like a bad person. I think to myself as my eyes move back to Lucius. The large wood doors close behind me as Lucius raises his wand up and puts a noise ward on the room. He puts it back into his cane as he looks at me with wary eyes. How did you know? He asks calmly. There is a lot you have yet to learn, Uncle Lucius, I say, standing from my seat. He waves a hand and the smaller door on the opposite side of the room opens. 2 large men in ornate silver masks and black robes walk into the room. Lucius has a conflicted face as they stand across the large wooden table from me. I sigh. Leave now and I'll spare you. The 2 men in masks turn to each other, probably confused. They both pull out their wands as they point them at me. Wrong choice, I say, grabbing Sin from my neck, tossing it towards the 2 Death Eaters. Sin expands as the 2 shoot spells at him, but their spells do nothing. Sin wraps around both of their heads, pulling them together, causing them to drop their wands, trying to tear them off. Lucius looks at the scene with fear in his eyes as the 2 masked men are suffocated to death in front of him. He quickly pulls out his wand and points it at me. Expelliarmus. His wand flies out of his hand before he can even fully turn to me. The muffled screams of the 2 dying men create an eerie atmosphere in the candle-lit room as I point my wand at Lucius. You have some questions to answer. This whole setup has me curious. I say, gesturing for him to sit. Once he sits down, I secretly use my cloak to grab his wand so it doesn't become an issue later. What do you want to know? He says cautiously as Sin gets off the now 2 dead men and lays on the table between the 2 of us. I smirk as I notice Lucius's eyes stuck on Sin. Explain the Death Eaters. And take your time. He slowly nods. Nearly a year ago it was spread around the old Death Eater families that Voldemort was still alive. I thought it was a rumor, so I ignored it until a few months ago the Caro twins arrived at my door again. Karkaroff had found what was left of Voldemort in a forest in Albania. I was told to use my resources to help find the ingredients to make him a new body. He was left weak from that night and still has yet to recover. In addition to those orders, I was given new orders a few weeks ago. Kill Soren Black at any cost. His eyes meet mine finally and I can see he is genuinely conflicted. I may not be a good man, but killing a child, one of my own blood at that? I couldn't. When you sent me the letter yesterday, Gibbon was giving me a briefing when your letter arrived. I was forced to take action. I may not want to kill you, but my family comes first. That's why I pushed so hard to get you out of Hogwarts, so you would be more exposed. He says, obviously not regretting his decision. I nod as I would have done the same if I was as weak as him. These 2 were supposed to be well-trained murderers used by the Knot family during the First War. He says, looking at the 2 dead bodies. All right, I get it. I have a few demands. I say, putting my wand away. His eyes narrow. And if I reject? I smirk. You will die, of course. His face turns stone. Speak then. I stand up with my hands out of my cloak in a friendly gesture showing I mean no harm. You will help clear my name. You will get me access to powerful artifacts. Lastly, you will serve me, you will become my pawn in Voldemort's company. He is taken aback as fear crosses his face. The first 2 are doable, but serve you? Why, that would put my family in great jeopardy. I give a kind smile. I assure you, they are much safer under me than Voldemort. Why would I trust a child over the Dark Lord? He asks with ridicule in his voice. Let me answer your question with another question. Do you know why he wants me dead? Before even the child who almost killed him the first time? I'll be nice and answer for you, the answer is fear. I speak slowly, leaning on the table a few feet away. He looks confused. Why does he fear you? I stand up as my black misty cloak covers my body in a bubble obscuring his view. Inside I shift into my Dementor form, and from the darkness, my hand shoots out and grabs him by the throat. The mist falls as I hear his scream as I lift him up and place him against the stone wall. Because no one escapes death. My dead voice echoes inside his head as my empty eye sockets meet his terrified eyes. Stop, please. I'll do anything. He screams with pure terror as he tries to pry off my hand from his throat. My cloak creeps up his arms as they fall to his sides, losing all power. Are you willing to serve? I ask, tilting my rotting face curiously. He nods his head as fast as he can. I am willing, I am willing. I feel the darkness in the back of my mind rumble in delight at his submission to me. I savor the good feeling for a moment before my mind refocuses. I drop him as I shift back into my human form with a smile. Simple, see. He is now panting on the ground as his arms are still dead at his side. I walk back to where Sin is on the table and place him back around my neck. Good job. I say softly as I pet him. Anything else you are hiding from me? I ask casually, turning back to the cowering man. He nods his head as he won't meet my eyes again. He told me to get the journal back into Hogwarts. I don't know what it is though. I was just told to get it into the school. I raise my brows curiously to the stuttering mess. Oh, and who has it? The Weasley girl. He says as he begins to regain power in his arms and curls into a ball. My eyes narrow at him. Don't give Voldemort anything he needs unless you have no choice, other than that pretend to be completely loyal. You may want to practice occlumency more. I hear Voldemort is quite skilled at legilimency. He nods his head without looking in my direction while slowly standing up. There is nothing else. He is being protected at Durmstrang Academy. That's all I know. Take this. I toss him one of my seeker coins with a small smirk. Use it in case of emergency. Serving me, you have earned yourself an extra life. Use it wisely. I turn around as I now understand how fun it is to play the role of villain. I gesture at him to take his time as I begin walking away. I will send you letters on the supplies and artifacts I need. I expect you and Narcissa to apologize to my Auntie Dromeda. You will send letters or show up anytime you need to give updates. Is that clear? Yes. He says as my misty black cloak extends onto the table and places his wand in front of him. I give him a side eye as I open the large wooden doors. I'm going to go talk to Aunt Narcissa now. Join us once you've collected yourself. With my departing words, I walk out to find Dobby. The house elf guides me to the parlor room where Aunt Narcissa is reading a book waiting for us. Chapter 90, Narcissa Malfoy. I smile at her as I walk into the room. She puts down the book as she looks at me with concern. So how did the conversation go? He didn't get you into anything with that crowd, did he? I shake my head. No, we came to an accord. He would try his best not to do anything bad and would work with me. We are family, after all, right? Her face turns to a smile. Of course. Would you like some tea? Sure, I say, sitting in the large armchair across from her. Dobby. Go fetch Soren some tea. She orders the stupid elf as she turns back to me with a smile. I smile wryly at the drastic change in her personality when speaking to Dobby. We came to the conclusion that you and Lucius would try to make up with Andromeda. She looks confused. With Andromeda? Why in the heavens would we do that? I can't shake the wry smile as she says it with such confidence. Because there are not many left. Family always comes first, right, Auntie Narcissa? She sighs. I suppose. But isn't she still with that Muggleborn? She says with a questioning face. Uncle Ted is a fantastic wizard. I'm sure you will get along once you meet him. I say, trying not to get angry. She sips her tea without answering. I can tell from her face that she is considering it. I sigh as I hear the door open and see Lucius, who looks 20 years older, walking in. Narcissa quickly puts down her drink as she gets up and walks over to him. Are you all right? Did the Death Eaters attack you? She asks with a mix of anger and sympathy to the disgruntled and messy Lucius. His eyes linger on me with a complicated look that holds a bit of obvious fear. I smile as I see him fiddling with the seeker coin in his breast pocket. It's fine, everything is taken care of. he says to Narcissa, but his eyes don't leave me. I nod to him since he is obviously talking about the corpses being dealt with. Narcissa nods, taking his word for it. Good, I expect an explanation later. He finally gives a small smile as he turns to her and nods before he sits on the couch not far from Narcissa's chair. Narcissa sits back down as Dobby returns with a tea kettle and 3 cups on platters floating around him. They come to rest in front of each of us as the kettle pours into each cup. My eyes meet Dobby's and I see him giving me an angry glare. Smack, the kettle falls and smashes on the ground as Dobby holds his head wailing, "You do not glare at our guests, elf. Clean up your mess," Narcissa says with a hiss as she holds the hand she used to smack the elf. I suck air through my teeth as I see the elf roll on the ground like a dog rolling in mud. That looked like it hurt. I still don't feel bad though. I think to myself as Narcissa looks like this is common practice. I clear my throat as I gather myself. You guys heard what happened at the dueling tournament, right? Lucius nods tiredly as well as Narcissa. I did hear, that's just awful. How could the French ministry let the dueling association just get away with this? First, someone tries to kill you, then they investigate you for murder. I mean, even if you did do it, what right do they have to investigate the little head of House Black? I shrug. Well, you guys wouldn't happen to know anything about it, right? I say, looking over at Lucius, who is still sitting quietly. Lucius shakes his head no as Narcissa speaks up. No, but if you need our help, just let us know. We can make sure the French ministry finds nothing. Right, Lucius dear? Lucius gives her a tired smile. Of course. Anything for her family. His last words are dull as he meets my eyes with a deep breath out. I smile. I thought you wouldn't. I'll be fine. I'd be grateful if you threw in some good words for me to your friends though. Especially towards the Hogwarts Council, Mr. Chairman. I say with a sly smile to Lucius. Lucius nods. You'll be back in Hogwarts before you know it. He says with a small smile. Narcissa rubs her chin as she leans back. Are either of that man's parents a wizard? Sorry, what was his name again? Ted. I nod. His name is Edward. Ted for short. I like to think that family is more important than blood. Her eyes narrow in confusion. Are they not the same thing? I shake my head. No. They are very different, very. I mutter the last word as I'm lost in my memories. Narcissa nods. I suppose we can try to look past it, right, Lucius dear? Lucius agrees. I have my own curiosities of muggles. I suppose getting to know one wouldn't be so bad. He says with a fake smile. Narcissa smiles. Then we will come to visit you sometime. You're in Appleby, right? Soren. I snap out of my thoughts as I look up at her concerned face. Yeah, of course, I'll try to set up a meeting with you and Auntie. I will send you guys a letter when I know the date. Lucius stands up first. You are leaving? He asks as he sees me slowly getting up. I nod. It's getting late, I don't want to overstay my welcome. I give him a kind smile. I will escort you out, Lucius says, opening the door for me. Goodbye, Aunt Narcissa, I say as I finish my tea and begin to walk out. Wave my hand as I do. Bye Soren, hopefully, I will see you soon. She says with a kind smile. I sigh. I suppose racists are people too, but why is she so nice yet has so much hate? Baffling. Once Lucius and I get to the main entrance hall, we stop and I turn to him as I said, I'll send you lists of what I need along with the money. Take care of yourself, uncle. If you ever need any or get caught by Death Eaters as a traitor, just tell me. I am good at cleaning large messes. He shivers a bit as his eyes linger on my scarf. I have already said I will serve, you need not worry. I will do what I can for my family. I will have you and your family under observation, so don't try anything, all right? I say, giving him a cheeky smirk. His face falls and I hold my hands up, seeing the misunderstanding. I said I would protect your family. The observers will double as protection, I have them on my family as well, don't worry. He lets out a deep breath of relief. What are these observers? He asks skeptically. I laugh a bit as I turn around. You don't need to know. Just know your family is safe. Without him being able to reply, I apparate away. I appear in my room again as I sigh and slump onto my bed. I lay back as I think to myself, playing the bad guy is hard, how does Volda do it? Chapter 91, The Rat-like Beetle. The next day I couldn't go set up my Dementors at Malfoy Mansion yet since I have my meeting with Rita tonight. Uncle Ted had to work today, so Auntie and I are out shopping right now. So far I've only gotten a new owl cage for Shy, since his old one is only the low-quality one you get for free when you first buy an owl. As Auntie and I are walking down the main street of Diagon Alley, I look up to her. Hey Auntie, how would you feel if your sister wanted to reconnect with you? Her smile twitches a bit. Honey, that won't happen. But what if they did? I ask, pushing the matter. She sighs. Why are you asking, Soren? I may or may not have been talking with Uncle Lucius. And we may or may not have talked about him and Auntie Narcissa coming to visit, giving you two an apology to try and repair your relationship. I say, not meeting her hard gaze. Auntie looks around before grabbing my arm. We shouldn't talk about this out here, she says, pulling me towards the leaky cauldron. I follow behind closely with her, holding my hand as we go. There are a lot of people around, but once the doors to the leaky cauldron open we are met with a nearly barren hall. She lets go of my hand as she sits at a table and I sit across from her. She sighs as I sit down. Soren, I'm sure you know this, but your uncle was a Death Eater. The atrocities he helped commit against Muggles? I can't forgive him, she says in a loud whisper. I hold up a finger. Keyword is helped. He hasn't actually murdered any Muggles, besides he isn't that bad of a guy. She rolls her eyes. He is a racist. He is family, and also chairman of the board of governors at Hogwarts, I say with raised brows. She bites her lips as she realizes my plan. You want me to pretend to forgive him so that you will get back into Hogwarts? Bingo, I say, giving her a small smile. I'm not going to shake his hand though, she says with a sour face. I laugh a bit. It's fine, I wouldn't either. When can I tell him that he can visit? She takes a deep breath and slowly breaths out. Wednesday. That's the only day this week that everyone is free. Tell him around 2 would be best. I nod. Shall we eat while we are here? She nods as I raise a hand to the barkeep. 2 butterbeer and 3 smoked turkey leg meals please. Auntie looks back at the barkeep. Make that 1 butterbeer and a water. I look at her confused. Are you not planning to drink? I ask. No, you aren't, she says, giving me a glare. I flinch a bit in shock. What? Why? She tilts her head at me. You are 12. I give her a dull look. Yeah, that's fair. Later that night I went to bed early to go out to the forest to see if Rita had actually shown up. I make sure my way past Lure's pen slowly as I scan the forest edge to see if I see anyone. After I reach the edge I close my eyes and look for souls, finding one only 15 feet to my northwest. I scan the tree not far from me for beetles. Once I spot it, it seems to lock eyes with me. You can come out now. I feel as though the beetle is glaring at me as it flies a few feet in front of me. It quickly grows, shifting into a dark red, white, and black blur of color until it finally forms into the woman Rita Skeeter. She is wearing a dark red jacket with a black blouse and pants with heels. She has circle glasses and curly blonde hair with pale skin and a sharp face. She hugs her body as she steps carefully on the fallen leaves. Couldn't you have chosen during the day? Or somewhere less dirty? She asks, shivering as she looks at her now dirty heels. I roll my eyes. You broke your promise, I say coldly. She pulls her body away, offended. I didn't write the article. Oh please, everyone knows Wigglewade doesn't write hit pieces, he only covers cases that are currently in court. You are the only one who covers gossip pieces. You ghost wrote the article, didn't you? I ask with an edge to my voice. She looks offended. We do no ghostwriting at the Daily Prophet, thank you very much. I roll my eyes. I would prefer you don't lie to me, Miss Beetle. You know the punishment for unregistered animagus? 10 years in Azkaban. I'm really starting to wonder why I don't rat you out. She holds up her hands defensively. Hold on, boy, there is no need to be hasty. I can fix this. I roll my eyes. Of course you will. Otherwise, we will get a new beetle friend in Azkaban. Seeing her scared look I bite my cheek. You know, I may have some juicy news for you to get the heat off of me. Something that would break the news cycle if you managed to prove true. A smile grows on her face as she grabs a notepad and quill, letting them both float next to her. Continue. Please. A little birdie told me that the houses that the Death Eaters that were let off of Azkaban time have been active lately. It seems to oddly correlate with the recent rise in crime, I say with an innocent face as I lean against the tree. The rumor goes that Voldemort isn't actually dead and the Death Eaters are trying to help him regain power. She noticeably flinches as I say Voldemort's name. The quill furiously writes as she looks at me skeptically. I smile, seeing her skeptical gaze. Just follow a former Death Eater for a few days. I'm sure you'll get the information you need. I heard Gregory Goyle Sr. is one of the now active members. Just take a look for yourself. She nods as the quill finishes writing. She strokes her chin. I will investigate the matter. It may take me a bit to get the article written and published. Editors and stuff, you know. I give her a smile. You have until this time next week. She gasps. That's not nearly enough time to write the article up to my quality. My eyes narrow. You wrote an article about me in one day. You have 1 week. No more. She huffs as she steps back about to leave and I step away as well. Oh, and Rita. She looks at me with a bit of concern, grabbing her quill and notepad. Yes. I don't want to see you in similar circumstances in the future. Is that understood? My voice turns cold as the frigid autumn night air seems to quiet. She gulps as she nods understood. She quickly pulls out her wand as she disappears in a twist of air. I sigh seeing her gone. I look up towards the Dementor that has been watching us. It's the oldest of the 3, the one that I assigned to Auntie. My eyes meet the Dementor as I look at the body it is holding. Come here. I order the Dementor with a tired tone. It slowly floats down and drops the unconscious man in front of me, only a few feet in front of me, like a sack of potatoes. I kick the man onto his back to see his face. He is around 40 to 50 years with tan skin and a weasel-like face. I slowly shift into my Dementor form, growing a few feet as my skin dries and my black shroud covers me like a light blanket, softly growing over me. My shadows softly lift the man up to me as my large hand grabs him by the neck, putting him against the tree. He wakes up as his eyes slowly flutter open, looking at me, finally snapping open in shock. His scream is cut off as my shadows cover his mouth, causing him to gag hard. My dead voice echoes in his head. Who sent you? The vampires. His expression is confused, so I continue. Was it Voldemort? His eyes widen in shock. If I could, I would sigh. The shadows slowly retreat from his mouth. He gasps, regaining air. Wait, I was only here for the woman. I didn't mean any. He is cut off as I tighten my grip in anger. I bring him closer as my gaping mouth is a few inches from his. The shadows cover his body, leaving him helpless as I slowly devour his soul. His eyes watch in horror as his soul leaves his body and moves into my mouth. Once it enters my mouth, he begins to spasm hard in my hand and suddenly stops with a jerk. I drop his now lifeless body as I turn to the Dementor. Your name is now Proda. There is no need to spare any of these men from now on. My dead voice says with seriousness as I stare into the Dementor's sockets. The Dementor, now known as Proda, lowers his head as I shift back to human form. Throw his corpse in the sea, I order as I step away, walking to the house in a bad mood. Chapter 92, Ritual Magic. Sitting at my desk, I begin to write a new letter. I detail out every single thing I need to build the tower I am working on, as well as the surrounding buildings I would like. Since sleep is optional to me and I will have a lot of free time, I have decided to use this extra time to begin my construction. I quickly address the letter to the first servant, and I am sure to tell him to never mention names in these letters. I am positive he already knows this, but I have to make double sure. He will be called the first servant, and he will address me as the Reaper. Only in letters, of course. It would be odd to talk to someone like that face to face. Tonight will be a long night for me as I will be flying all over the Isles. First I must go to Azkaban to recruit a few Dementors to watch over Lucius, Narcissa, and Malfoy. I will also grab a few of SIDS things while I am there. As well as a few, less important things. I hand Shy the letter as I stand from my desk operating out. I appear again on the beaches of the North Sea, only a few miles out from Azkaban. I am covered in my shroud as I transform into my true form after making sure there is no one around. To others, this would be rather risky to do, but I am able to become invisible with my shroud and can check for humans around me every so often. I make my way to Azkaban at speeds that would put boats to shame. From a mile or two out, I can see the tower with the Dementors flying around carelessly. They all begin to stop and turn to me as I quickly approach, as if they can see me through my shroud. I slow down as I approach, watching the Dementors slowly back away from me as I drift above the rough waves crashing against the rocks of Azkaban's island. The docks are small, only have a single small hut with a sleeping man inside. I can see his soul is mostly white as he leans against his desk, probably sleeping. I pass him slowly, watching him as the candlelight from inside leaves the window and hits my shroud. Once I am past him, I search the inside of the tower with my enhanced sight. On the first floor, I can see the guards' quarters, a living area, a kitchen, and a few offices. I drift inside casually as basically all the guards are asleep except for one that is awake and reading. I head inside the offices and shift back into my human form, still covered by my shroud to stay invisible. I sit down at the desk chair and open the filing cabinet. My lips spread into a smile as I see the inmates are sorted by crime and then sorted again by name. My eyes scan over the crimes until I reach the 3 bottom rows. Sexual assault, murder, and Muggle atrocities. I pick one of the 3 at random and pull out the first one in the row. The file reads: Anders, William. Crime, Muggle atrocities. Description: used the imperious curse to rape and murder at least 6 Muggle women and 1 witch. Only 4 bodies have been found. Through the use of transfiguration he turned them into decorations and scattered them around his home. Also known to associate with Death Eaters before he was excommunicated by their community. Sentence, 5,437 years. Sentence date, November 3, 1972. Well, William Anders. Looks like you will be the first to fuel my wards. My eyes narrow as I read the description of his crimes. I shift back into my Dementor form as I fly down into Sid's hideout. I quickly find what I need, a ceremonial dagger, a few iron rods infused with multiple charms, and a magic powder made from the bones of a sea serpent, and the blood of a beast who looks similar but with a wildly aggressive temperament compared to sea serpent's normal kind nature. Sid said these along with an unwilling human sacrifice can be used to fuel a powerful aversion ward as well as a defensive ward for up to 10 years. I would say a criminal's life is worth 10 years of my continued peace. I quickly put away the ingredients into my shroud as I fly back outside. As I reach the top of Azkaban I stop about 20 feet above the stone tower and look around at the Dementors who are staring at me. Gather. I speak loudly into the mind of every single Dementor on the island. Most of them fumble near trying to avoid touching each other. If it could my eye would twitch right now. I am so used to dealing with the intelligent Proto that I forget how dumb they are. Once they are all nearby I scan over them carefully. It is difficult to tell whether or not they will be intelligent but I still pick out 3 nonetheless. I have them come in front of me while I dismiss the other. Can any of you 3 speak? I ask since Proto can do simple words as of late maybe one of them can as well. None of them respond. I sigh internally as I begin to explain to them what their jobs are. They are to head to the Malfoy mansion and survey them from a distance and protect them if necessary. But to only intervene if they would come to serious harm. The 3 are all similar in size, about the size of the Dementor guarding Uncle Ted. I still assign the smallest of the 3 to protect Malfoy when he gets back from school. Although I don't like the kid I would still hate to see him die before he matures. Once that is all taken care of and they start flying off towards Britain I open the file of William Anders. It says he is hell in cell 415. I float down all the way to floor 4 phasing through each level as I do. I stop as I reach his cell and peer inside. A man who looks to be in his mid-50s is quietly sleeping. William Anders. I speak into his head as I phase through the bars going into his cell. His head snaps up off his cot as he looks at me with wide eyes. A Dementor that can talk. Fear lingers in his eyes as I approach him. You are William Anders? I ask as I tower over him only a few feet away from where he is laying. He sits up as he backs against the wall. What do you want with me? He asks with a shaky voice. My shroud crawls up his legs as I shift out of my Dementor form back to human. He looks at me with wide eyes as my shroud reaches up to his neck. He tries to pull it off of him but his hands fade through it as if he were grabbing at the mist. His eyes widen. A kid. I smile as I step up to him, the shroud fully envelops him causing him to fall over unconscious. Just making sure I had the right person, I say with a small smile. I grab him by his collar and pull out my wand operating to my spot in the forest of Boland. Appearing in the area I cleared out before I drag him to the top of a small ridge near the center of the land where I plan to put the tower. I toss him to the side as I pull out Sid's ward book and begin to arrange the ritual. I set the enchanted rods in a 6-pointed star pattern around 2,000 meters away from each other. Then I took the beast powder and spread it in the area exactly as Sid had laid out in the book, putting the final ritual circle on the ridge near where I have the unconscious sacrifice. I grab him again and lay him down in the center of the circle, letting my shroud grab his limbs keeping him down. I pull out the small ritual dagger as I kick his head, waking him up. He groggily wakes up as he looks back and forth with fear in his eyes. Who are you? He yells with a trembling voice as he tries to struggle free of my shroud. I look at him coldly as I take a knee next to him, raising the dagger high. In the star of the beholder I offer the body of beasts and the blood of the unwilling. I look in his eyes as he begins to scream. Wait, we can ta. I continue the spell, ignoring his words. With this life, may the land be protected from those who oppose me, with the blood of those who fear me. Through the blood I offer. I drive the dagger down hard, piercing the man's chest as he screams with all his might. Ah! The man's chest is pulled to the sky as blood flows from the dagger in his chest. The blood floats into the air, following the markings on the ground I made with the beast powder. His screams stop as his body becomes a husk without blood. Without commanding it, my shroud launches from my body, following the blood towards the stakes. As the mixture of blood and shadows reaches the rods, pillars of dark red light reach into the sky. A transparent red sheen forms around the area and a dark mist reigns in the center. After a few moments, the sheen becomes nearly invisible and my shroud returns back to my body. I begin to wonder if my body naturally reacts to old magic like this or if it was a fluke. I use my shroud to carry me towards one of the walls and stare in curiosity. I look around at the other portions of the barrier with an impressed face. I'm surprised it worked honestly, I say to myself with a fairly proud feeling. Chapter 93, The Challenge of Charms. To test the barrier I walk past the rods and turn to face it. I grin as it appears nothing is there. Right now it doesn't have the aversion charm so people can accidentally walk into it, but the ritual already set it up. All I need to do is set up the charm using the ashes of the man used for the ritual. The anti-detection charm is already up, the aversion charm will keep people from accidentally bumping into the barrier. I don't think anyone will come by here in the time it takes me to figure it out, so it should be fine. I check for souls before transforming into my Dementor form. I gather my shadows behind me as I ball my fist, raising it behind me. 3 tendrils of shadow grow from the ground like new arms. The shadows thrust forward as I push my fist forward. Boom! A red sheen of magic reveals itself as my tendrils smash into the barrier. I nod in satisfaction as I return to my human form and step through the barrier. It is not as strong as the barrier around the Vila village, but it is certainly a step up from the vast majority of other warding spells. My ability to control the barrier with a thought to block out even people I have given access to is useful as well. I think I will make the charm to gain access similar to the Fidelius charm but more restrictive. It will also be more simple since I am not yet good enough at charms to do the Fidelius charm. The ritual only lets me create the aversion charm, so the task of making the access charm falls to me. I may not be as good with charms as some other prodigies, but I am still better off than 90% of wizards. Not to mention I am better with souls than practically any other living wizard. I am already certain that I will make it a 2-person spell to make it practically faultless. The only way a traitor can get in is with the aid of another traitor. That or by tricking them, and in that case they have a problem to deal with. I walk back to the center where the man's body has already turned to dust. I sit in front of the pile of ash and think. I will not be able to live a peaceful life alone. As powerful as I am in my Dementor form, I can't fight a war myself. I don't wish to mingle with the dark wizards, but the Dementors are too little in number to fight a war. If Voldemort returns, I will be facing down an army of thousands. Azkaban only has a few hundred Dementors at max. I can make more, but that's a bit too brutal for me. Am I thinking too far ahead? With the oldest Dementor protecting Auntie, there is no way a normal dark wizard would be able to harm her. But what about a team? I sigh to myself as I stand up. From my cloak, I grab an iron bucket and pick up the ashes of the corpse. At each of the rods, I place a small pile and finish the ritual with the final charm. May the ashes of my foe keep me unseen from those who may wish me harm, I say, bowing my head towards my wand in a respectful fashion. The iron rod glows black for a second before fading as if nothing was ever there. I do this at each rod before I finally dump the rest of the ashes in a small pit and wash out the bucket of rapist dust. I put the bucket back in my cloak before I dissipate from the forest with a relieved feeling. Now that I have secured the area as mine, I can freely do magic and practice there. I appear in my room and immediately walk up to the feglass, counting the obscure heads. There are 6 less than there were when I arrived from Hogwarts. I wonder if the other 2 Dementors killed some? I doubt they would go after Sis since she is an aura and is always with Kingsley. Also, the youngest one is the one who is the most likely to kill someone and not tell me about it. I close my eyes and feel the souls in the house. Everyone is sleeping soundly, which means Sis's Dementor is home for a rare change. Since I still have a few hours till sunrise, I decide to talk to them. I change into my Dementor form and phase through the ceiling and float a few feet above the room. After waiting only a few seconds, I can see the 3 Dementors coming towards me. I face them as they stop in front of me off of the roof with their faces covered by the black hoods. Their heads are lowered, causing me to wonder if they have become more intelligent. Proto can say short sentences, but the others haven't shown growth. That being said, I haven't seen them in a while. I point at the middle Dementor, the one who protects Sis. You are Druga, beating my expectations again. It nods its lowered head. I point at the last. You are Dritan, the smallest stands like a stone, oblivious with its head down. I look at Proto. Have you eaten any pursuers? Yes, Proto's dead voice responds. His voice sounds like an old man on his deathbed and is lacking emotion. How many? I ask. He puts a hand on himself as he raises his featureless face, looking at me. 1. He then points to the youngest 2. I nod. Did you throw the bodies into the sea? Yes. He says, standing as still as a tree. Continue as you were protecting your targets. Work together if necessary. Proda and Druga nod while Dritan keeps its head down. I wave them off with a hand and they scatter. Proda drags the small one behind him as they disappear into the forest. I sigh as I phase through the roof back into my room and transform back into human. I sigh as I sit on my bed. 4 people were sent after Auntie and Uncle Hui. I get up as I sit at my desk turning on my lamp and pull out a book. I will just work on my spell for now and go to the library in the morning to get some addresses and legal records. I say to myself as I pull out my charms book. I begin to copy down the Fidelius charm, then I pull out my curses and hexes book and copy down the Mimblewimble curse. Finally, I pull out the guide to magical contracts and I copy down the unbreakable vow. I stare at the 3 spells as I scratch my head and wonder how I can create my own out of the 3 and still make it simple. I am lucky that 60% of a spell is intent and knowing the flow of magic. I think the only way to simplify it is to make the magic a form of contract that no one can speak of. One that you forget upon being out of my presence. But that makes the issue of what if they need to get to the sanctuary without me there? I lean back in my chair as I stare at the paper reading over the spells with a narrow gaze. I sigh as I sit forwards and begin scribbling down ideas. That's when I hear Shy knock on the window. I smile seeing I have a reason to procrastinate. I stand up and let him in, taking the letter from him. It's from Lucius, he wants to know where to put the supplies I ordered. I just reply shortly I will pick them up myself. I write the letter and set it on the desk. I want to give Shy a break so I will send it sometime tomorrow. I look at the spells again and sigh seeing I only got like 3 minutes of procrastination out of that. I pet Shy as I stare out the dark window wondering what I'll do about all the things currently on my plate. I look at Shy. Why is life so hard? Shy tilts his head at me causing me to smile. Chapter 94, to the Ministry. A few hours later in the morning I still haven't found a solution for the spell but I have to get going if I want to make it to the library. I walk downstairs to see Uncle and Auntie at the table both reading the newspaper. Seeing me coming down the stairs Auntie's brows perk up. What are you doing awake so early, Soren? I was thinking of going with Uncle to the ministry. I want to go study at the archives. I say sitting at the table at the head of the table which is between the 2. Uncle drops the newspaper revealing Arthur sitting on his lap. Really? Why don't you come down and see me once you're done with your research? I smile. Sure, but is it okay for me to head inside? I thought they were strict about who can go in. He laughs a bit. It's fine, not like we are handling particularly confidential information. I shrug. If that's the case I don't mind swinging by after. 30 minutes later our talking is broken up by the sound of Sis coming down the stairs. I turn to see Sis's beautiful face coming down the stairs with tired eyes. Her tired eyes narrow at me as she walks up to the kitchen and waves a hand. Bread floats out of the fridge while a jam jar and butter knife begin to make her a sandwich. So why are you up so early, Soren? She says as she grabs the sandwich out of the air and starts eating it. I'm going with you guys to the ministry. I want to do some studying of history, I say giving her an innocent smile. Oh? Are you going to come to visit me on the 2nd level? She says sitting down next to Auntie. I don't think they would let me in, I say with a small laugh. She shrugs. No clue, you should try though. I get bored of the paperwork. No, he has to come and save me from my paperwork. Uncle Ted says defensively. My jaw drops. That's why you wanted me to visit you. He holds up the cat defensively. Not the only reason. Auntie sighs as she rolls her eyes. I have things to do today so I'm going to stay out of this. With that she makes her escape heading into her room. Uncle Ted and Nymphadora started arguing so I just walked away and sat in the living room reading a book. I will visit the winner I guess. Only 10 minutes later Sis came out of the dining room with her face transformed to how it was before she turned part Vila. You can come and visit me after you visit Dad. She says with an annoyed tone. I am taking the FLOO network. She yells to the dining room as she grabs a handful of fluo powder from the goblet above the fireplace. She steps in and gives me a small smile and waves before she throws the powder at her feet. Ministry of Magic. She says as green flames bathe her and she vanishes from my sight. I close my book as I turn around to see Uncle no longer holding his paper. He is walking over with Arthur in his arms. Do you want to take the fluo network as well? I am not as good at apparition as your older sister, to be safe we should probably do that, he says stroking the cat like some kind of villain. I nod. Sure, it's not a big deal to me. I stand up and stand next to the fireplace. He sets the cat down on a chair as he grabs the goblet and offers some powder to me. I take a handful, stepping into the fireplace as I do. "I'll wait for you, I guess." He nods as I throw the powder at my feet. "Ministry of Magic," I say in a clear voice. Green's flames quickly cover my vision as it feels like wind is hitting my face. It stops almost the same second it started as the green fades and I appear in a large fireplace made of large white stone. The floors of the lobby are shiny dark wood floors with hundreds of wizards walking in. The walls themselves are darker stone while the ceilings are a bright royal blue. The wall across from me is littered with around 30 fireplaces with people walking out of the atrium, and on my side were people walking in. I quickly step out of the fireplace so as to not get in anyone's way. I stand a few steps away watching the arrivals, waiting for Uncle. Not even 20 seconds later I see him arrive in the fireplace 3 away on my right. I walk over while he is still looking around for me. He sees me once I'm within a few feet and looks relieved. "Let's get you to the security desk. They will be able to bring you to the archives," he says as he puts a hand on my back and leads me through the crowd. Good thing he does too, I am too short and can't see over the giant crowd of people. Once we get to the desk I wave at the man behind the tall desk. "Okay, I have to get to work, I'll see you later Soren, don't get lost." I wave bye to him as I look up at the desk. "Man, name please," he says with a tired voice. "Soren Black," I say, leaning against the desk. He flips through a small book using his wand to turn the page. "Let me see, Black. Black. Ah, I see, you have restrictions on you right now, travel. Can I still go to the archives?" I ask, a bit concerned. He nods. "You can, you just can't leave the country. Do you need directions?" "Yeah." He stands up and points to the bridge on my left. "Over the bridge, take your first right, at the end of the hall there will be large double doors on your left. That is the archives. Directly on the left is the archive manager's desk." I nod as I follow his directions to a T. I am lucky that the crowds died down once I got past the elevators. The bridge was really cool since it seemed below it was just a bottomless abyss and windows on the sides of the ravine. I finally make it to the large doors with a sign next to them reading Ministry of Magic Archives. I nod to myself as I open the large doors, slowly revealing the massive lines of bookshelves seemingly going a mile long. I turn left as he said, and there is an older witch sitting at a shorter desk reading a book. I wearily walk over to the desk as I observe the old witch. She gives off Meaner McGonagall vibes and it scares me a bit. She looks up from her book with narrow eyes. "How can I help you?" she says in a rushing tone. "I am here to read through the public documents," I say with a wry smile. She smacks a part of her desk near the end with a different color paint to the rest of the desk. "Put all your books in your possession inside this square or else the enchantment will take them and organize them with the rest." I nod as I place my book, The Experience of a Real Podiwunner, on the desk. She reads the title. Good choice. I give her a smile. "Thanks, what books can I check out, and how many?" "Columns 1 to 8 up to row 12. You won't be able to touch anything else so you don't have to worry about it. You can check out as many as you like as long as you don't leave the archives. If you leave the archives you can only take one book, no legal records," she says as if she has said the exact words 100 times. I nod as I begin to make my way down the halls, picking out book after book, taking my time looking at each category. It is extremely well organized. It goes by recorded history, then by court cases, then by civil disputes. Since I'm the only one here I'll take my time. Chapter 95, Visiting Uncle. As I begin to walk away from the shelves, the 20 or so books are lifted from my hands and gently float to the table nearest me. I sigh, glad that I don't have to carry all of them, and sit down at the table, picking up the one off the top. The Case of Lucius Malfoy v. the Ministry. The cover read. I figure if he is going to be my servant I should at least look into his crimes. Boy, was I not ready. The list is absolutely massive. Theft, money laundering, illegal trade, murder, use of dark arts, dark artifact trading, and a few other magic-related crimes. His most heinous crimes were killing Aurors during battle, so I don't know what to think. Does he deserve to be redeemed is the question. I read through his case and laugh at how many testimonies he managed to get in his defense. 23 pure bloods, such a ridiculous number, only Lucius could manage it. According to their investigation, they think he was the right hand of Voldemort. He seems kinda wimpy for that, but they have quite a bit of evidence to support it. I guess I haven't seen how he will hold up in a real fight. I assume well. After I look through Lucius's case I begin going through the cases of each other free Death Eater. I also grabbed the imprisoned ones along with the history of the war so it doesn't look suspicious. Over the next few nights, I plan to go from house to house checking up on the Death Eaters. Fuck suspicion, if they want to target my family I will target them first. If I don't have to, I don't want to kill Theo's father so I might take him as a servant. I don't want too many people though, it would make it hard to be discreet. I quickly write down the public address of every free Death Eater currently alive. Once I'm done I put the paper that I wrote on with invisible ink into my cloak. I quickly scan through the memories of the Death Eater I ate last night to see if I can get any hints to Voldemort's real identity. Since when I ate the portion of Voldemort's soul I saw his childhood and a fragment of his time at Hogwarts I know virtually nothing. I sigh as I lean back not finding anything useful. The man named Jonathan Chamberlain was a half-blood who joined Voldemort because he worked in the field of dark artifacts. He is pretty useless otherwise, the job of killing Auntie was supposed to be easy, poor idiot. I sigh as I grab what I was genuinely curious to see as public records. The war against Grindelwald. Much like Voldemort, Grindelwald was so successful due to the combination of his power and charisma. He took advantage of the wizards' distaste of muggles at the time to get them on his side. The Great War took its toll on the wizarding world as well and Grindelwald knew it. The families that followed him also sided with Voldemort when he rose. But Grindelwald wasn't contained to just the Isles like Voldemort, instead, the entirety of Europe and America were forced to face him. Apparently, Dumbledore refused to join for years. I wonder if it was for personal reasons, but after he joined the fight it ended in only a couple of months. Their fight was not recorded, instead just simply said Dumbledore defeated the Dark Wizard and that was it. Before I leave I pull out the book of Sirius Black v. the Ministry. I read through the notes until I find the judge. Due to the ruling of Department Head Bartmeus Crouch Sr., Sirius Black will be sent to Azkaban for life without trial due to the heinous nature and overwhelming evidence of his crime. Perhaps I should pay him a visit as well. No, that would be evil, he was only a pawn. Fuck. I close the book in anger as I stand up ready to put the books away. As I stand up all the books float up and put themselves back where they were without me needing to grab them. I walk up to the desk again happy I don't have to waste time again. The old witch looks up at me from her book. You find what you need. I nod, I did, thanks a lot. She gives me a wave as I'm grabbing my book from the desk and walking away. I make my way back to the main atrium to see the crowd has died down a lot, nearly all of the people are gone. I walk into the elevator getting the odd gazes of the two already in it. A middle-aged woman and a fairly young Asian adult man. What floor? The man asks as he is standing in front of the buttons. I hold my chin as I think floor 6, I'm visiting my uncle in Broom Regulatory Control. His brows raise. I work there, what's your uncle's name? He asks as he presses the button. Edward Tonks, people call him Ted though, I say giving a polite smile. Ah, you must be Soren then. I am Chol Chong, this is Ms. Edgecombe, she works in general transportation. He says reaching out a hand to shake. I shake his hand. It's nice to meet you, I'm actually acquainted with your daughter, she is a friend of a friend. Ms. Edgecombe reaches out a hand as well. Have you met mine, Marietta? She started as a Ravenclaw this year. I shake my head. Sorry ma'am, I haven't, I'll be sure to introduce myself sometime though. She laughs a bit. I don't know if that's a good idea, she may be smitten by such a proper young man. I give a wry smile as the elevator doors open saving me. All right, I'll see you some other time Liz. Follow me, Soren, I'll show you to his area. I nod as I follow him off the elevator down a long hallway that has a few doors leading different ways. She nods as she gives us a smile and waves, entering the first door on the left. The hallway is kind of dark but has a similar aesthetic as the atrium below us. He leads me to the second door on the right and the dark hallway immediately brightens. Behind the door is a large bright room with 20 or so desks organized in an office-like fashion facing each other. Every single desk has a large stack of papers and files on it. To the left is the deputy head of Broom Regulation Office with the head's office directly across from me. On the right is a door labeled Confidential Cases. I assume that's the area I'm not allowed in. Mr. Chong leads me to the far right desk and points at the desk walled off with a plaque that reads Edward Tonks, Regulation Official. I say my thanks and knock on the wall as I peek my head in the opening. Soren. I see Uncle Ted turn around in his chair with a smile. Yo. I say with a grin. Great, let's get out of here, I'm hungry. You took longer than expected, 6 hours just about. He says standing up grabbing his overcoat. I shrug. I wanted to take my time. Are we going to pick up Sis before we leave? He looks surprised if he hadn't thought of that. I suppose we can. She doesn't like going to lunch with me. Who would want to hang out with their uncool father after all? He says with a self-deprecating smile. I smack his back. Who said you were uncool? What wizard could build an entire pen with just his hands? Not many, I reckon. He gives me a smile as he walks out. Thanks, but I know I am not the slickest of men. Ah, Chol, can you tell Deputy Head Smith that I'll be taking a long lunch since my kid came to visit? Mr. Chong gives him a nod. Of course. Have fun. They wave at each other as we walk out. So where are we going? I ask as we get near the elevator. He gives me a knowing smirk. I know this great Muggle place. A full 3-course meal for only £6. They have great seafood. No one ever goes to Muggle places with me, so I thought we could take advantage of it just being us. Cool, what floor is Sis on? I ask looking at the elevator buttons. I got it. He says pressing the floor 2 button. On the way up I feel my curiosity take hold of me and I look at the floors around us with my soul view. Unfortunately, my vision is blocked before I can get below the atrium floor. Powerful wards are placed on top of the bottom floor. I don't know why they need to block off the courtroom so much, but it makes me curious. What's below the atrium? I ask Uncle curiously. The Department of Mysteries. No one knows what goes on there. There are many rumors but nothing solid. It is common knowledge to nobles and ministry officials, but most people don't know of it or think it's a myth. It is very real. The unspeakables work there. He says in a serious tone. The unspeakables? I say, curious. He nods. They hide their identity and are not even allowed to say where they work or what they do. A lot of people know who they are, but still, it is eerie that they can't say anything about the job. Not to mention the creepy robes. Ugh. I begin to think to myself as the elevator doors open. Chapter 96, Back to Malfoy Manor. Uncle went in alone to grab Sis and we went to the Muggle restaurant to eat. After we finished I went back to the atrium and took the Flow network home. I made sure to take note of the Department of Mysteries though. I'll have to check it out eventually. The next few days went by well. I got to stay home and work on my spell more. I think I am close to finishing it. Lucius said he would be able to get my materials tonight, so I'm looking forward to picking them up. I wake up fairly early since I chose to sleep last night and am laying on my bed reading until Auntie is done making breakfast. Knock knock. I look up from my book as I wonder who is knocking on my door so early. Come in. The door slowly creeps open and Uncle's head pops through the door. Good, you're awake. Come look at the paper. He says, taking a step into my room and handing me a folded newspaper. I look at him curiously as I lean up, putting down my book and unfolding the newspaper. The front cover reads Corruption in the French Ministry? By Rita Skeeter. Not even a week ago today, Soren Black was accused of murder by the French Ministry. Yet last night's raid turned up new evidence. A small clutch of vampires had been colluding with an unknown member of the dueling board to murder our young national hero. A raid was conducted this morning at 0200 on this small clutch hiding in a Muggle portion of the city. 1 hour has passed and 17 vampires were taken down with 8 captured. Now that the case is public knowledge, it was shown that the only piece of evidence was a Muggle watch. It is suspected that the vampires mistook the victim, Marius Ursa, for Soren Black due to the watch. Ursa had apparently bought it earlier that day from a charms vendor who is now also under investigation. In light of the new evidence provided by the captured vampires, the French ministry is undergoing mass interrogations on different law enforcement departments. But what does this mean for our young hero, Soren Black? He has already been written off as evil, framed as a villain by the corrupt French ministry. I smirk at the article as my eyes continue reading. Just below that article, still on that page, is another large tagline: Ex-Death Eaters active again? By Rita Skeeter. In the article are pictures and evidence of prominent pureblood members of the community meeting in secret. It also has a record of shipments coming in and out of the Crab family business not matching with the public transport records. Meaning either the family is committing fraud or they are transporting packages that are being illegally sent for various reasons. My brows raise as I am impressed by the amount of evidence that Rita managed to gather in only a few days. Honestly, my first thought was that she fabricated it, but I don't think she lies, she just stretches the truth. I hand the paper back to Uncle, who has an excited face. Looks like I need to write to Dumbledore. I say with a wide grin. Uncle laughs. This calls for a celebration. Come grab breakfast, I'll make some drop scones. I stand up quickly. Let's go then. After eating with the family, even sis, I go back up to my room and write a letter to Dumbledore. Basically, I just asked him when I should return now that things have been cleared up. Only a few hours later I get a letter back saying to come back the week after Halloween. So in 10 days, that should be fine. No one has died yet this year at Hogwarts, so Voldemort's plan obviously hasn't been put into action yet, right? Since I have all the homework assignments till Halloween, I guess they don't want me back yet. I have a few days left, so I should start committing to the tower plan. I should also start visiting some people. That night I leave my window open and apparate to the Malfoy mansion once again. I walk through the large garden out front, meeting Dobby at the fountain. He gives me a dull look. Dobby greets Master Black. I give him a smile. Good evening, Dobby. As excitable as always, I see. Dobby turns around. I will take you to Master Malfoy. I shrug as I follow him closely as he leads me to the backyard. Once we make it around the side of the mansion, we see a large 30-foot-tall tent in the yard with Lucius and Narcissa sitting on a patio not far from the tent drinking tea. Lord Black is here, Master. Dobby says with his head down while fidgeting with his hands. Lucius quickly stands up. Soren, glad you're here. He gestures at the tent. As you can see, the things you requested are here. I nod. Good evening, Auntie, Uncle. Narcissa stands up and gives me a hug. Hello, Soren, I say, why do you always come at night? Sorry, it is more convenient for me, I say, hugging her back. As we break off the hug, I look at Lucius. Let's see how much you got, I say, gesturing towards the tent. He nods as he signals for me to follow. He pushes aside the flaps of the entirely black tent and the inside is massive. Lines and lines and lines of huge stone bricks and wood. I look at the rows with an impressed face. Lucius smirks at my impressed face. 16,000 sandstone blocks, all 6 foot by 3 feet by 3 feet, and 2,000 planks of enchanted oak wood. Also, the seller threw in a gift. Lucius walks me over to one end where a glowing white globe is sitting on a golden pedestal. This is a heart seeker. It shows you where every heartbeat is within a mile. They are indicated by glowing red dots. He says, pointing at the 4 glowing dots. How much is this costing me? I ask, looking at the mountains of stone and wood. I managed to get most of it for a good price of 1,150 galleons in total. He says with a smug smile. A/N, I'm using the conversion of 1 galleon equals 25 ISH USD. The conversion of £5 per USD is absolutely ridiculous, and Rowling is dumb for saying it. $25 is about what you get when you do the math on it from the books. There is a cool Reddit, https://www.reddit.com/r/harry potter/comments/43qv9c/let's_talk_wizard_money_a_everything/. I nod. That is indeed a fantastic price. I wave my hand over a slab of sandstone next to me and galleons pour out onto it from my cloak. That's only 700, I'll stop by another night to drop off the rest, I say as he gathers the money into his moleskin pouch. We step out of the tent together to see Narcissa still drinking her tea. Lucius quickly turns around and flicks his wand at the tent. The tent quickly folds in on itself, becoming the size of a sports bag in only a few seconds. Lucius walks up to the bag, picking it up and hands it to me. I take it and put it in my cloak, making sure Narcissa is reading her book and isn't paying attention. I notice Lucius flinch a bit when my dark fog leaks off the inside of my robes. I just give him a smirk as I sit down at the patio table with Narcissa. Come, sit down, Uncle, I don't have to be home anytime soon since Auntie Dromeda and Uncle Ted don't even know I'm here. Narcissa puts down her book as Lucius sits next to her. You snuck out? How naughty! She says with a small grin. Bellatrix, Andromeda, and I used to sneak out when we were younger as well. We went to the Muggle areas of London for late night snacks. Maybe that's why she ended up with a Muggle. She says the last part to herself as she holds her chin. I smile as I continue to steer the conversations for the rest of the night. I tell the two racists about the Muggle world. About the cars that move themselves without magic. About the screens that capture images and display them large. Also about video games as maybe a gift for Draco. I hope by learning more they will become less elitist, or at least Narcissa. But I don't know if that's possible. Chapter 97, Visit from the Malfoys. Before leaving I make sure to remind them to come over at noon. Once I leave I head to my secret area and drop off the tent full of supplies. I'm not sure who I will get to build the tower. I may just take my time over the summer and do it myself. After putting down the tent I apparate home and work on the spell more. I have started making ground on the spell since I started making it a vow using Latin as its base. This is only my first mock-up though. A few hours later around 9 AM I hear a knock on my door. Come in, I say a bit surprised as I look towards the door. Auntie opens the door. You have company. Lucius and Narcissa. I ask standing up from my desk sliding my notebook into my bag. No, someone named Dirk Garvey. She says gesturing me to come. I follow her out confused since I don't recognize the name. Walking down the stairs I see a weasel-faced man in a bright green suit sitting on the sofa talking to Uncle, only stopping when they see us walking down the stairs. The man quickly stands up walking to me with a hand out. You must be Soren. I'm Dirk Garvey. I am a lawyer from Hobbs and Garvey Wizards law firm. What does a lawyer want from me? I ask curiously. I wanted to reach out to you to discuss the opportunity laid before you. He says with a sly smile that matches his weasel face well. And what kind of opportunity is that? I ask with raised brows. I want to represent you in a case against the French Ministry of Magic. I heard about your situation and I thought it would be a perfect opportunity for you to make a case suing for damages for malicious prosecution and unlawful misconduct. He says, handing me a thin file that he pulled out of his suit pocket. I take the file and begin to read through it. Inside it states every instance of misconduct and wrongful prosecution that the French ministry did against me. He must have gotten the public file from the French ministry because he has things even I didn't know. This is all good evidence, but I thought you couldn't sue a foreign ministry? I thought you could only file complaints. I say, handing the file to Auntie, who is curiously trying to read from behind me. That is true, however, we can petition our ministry to sue them on our behalf. That's when it would be taken to court and I would fight it as your representative. His weasel smile gets wider as he sits in the armchair not far from me. And what would you charge? I ask, sitting at the other armchair across from him. 10% of your winnings. He says, clasping his hands in front of himself. That's reasonable. And how much do you think we should go after them for? I ask, now grinning. 10 million, he says flatly, his smile falling. My jaw drops a little as I'm taken aback. 10 million? Sickles? 10 million galleons? That is worth more than a few pure-blood families combined. He gives a proud smile. Yet, we probably won't get it, but when the judge is adjusting the price, 500,000 seems like a tiny amount in comparison. While if we sued for 500,000 the reduced amount would only be 200,000 or so. I rub my temple with a hand as I lean against the arm of the chair and look up at Auntie. I like this guy. He seems like a great lawyer. Auntie laughs as I turn back to the proudly smiling weasel. You're hired. What do I have to do? His proud smile turns weasel-like again as he pulls out a contract and pushes it over to me. I'll yours and your guardian's signature. I nod as I grab the contract and lean back, reading the contract thoroughly. The contract is pretty simple and doesn't have any noticeable holes. Once I get finished reading over the contract, I hand over the contract to Auntie so she can read it. Do I have to be the one to make the petition to the ministry? I ask while grabbing a pen from my pouch. No, once I am your lawyer I can represent you, doing everything between you and the ministry. I'll keep you updated via letters. The only thing you will have to do is be there on the court date. That's good since I'll be at school soon, I say, grabbing the contract from Auntie once she is done reading the contract. I set it on the coffee table and sign it, handing the pen to Auntie, who signs it as well. I hand the contract back to him as he puts it in a small file and tucks it away into his suitcase. It will only take a few days to get the ministry to work with us. When are you going back to school? The week after Halloween. So only a few days away. That should be fine. I will put in the application immediately. We should hammer out the details first. He smiles as he pulls out a few different files and sets them on the table. An hour or so later I am leaning back in my chair explaining to Garvey what happened throughout the entire tournament. I also explain earlier what happened during the interview earlier. He is sitting across from me noting down important events as I talk until we hear a knock on the door. I stand up to get it since I'm the closest to the door. Opening the door I am greeted by the faces of Lucius and Aunt Narcissa. They are both wearing dark-colored formal wear and Lucius has his cane as usual. Aunt Narcissa hugs me before I can even say hello. Good afternoon, Soren, Lucius says with a nod from behind Narcissa. I nod to him as I hug her back. Glad you guys could make it. As Aunt Narcissa lets go I pack away and gesture in. Please, come on in. Lucius steps past and walks in first, giving a very convincing fake smile to the three in the living room. Andromeda, it has been a while. This must be your husband Edward, and what is Garvey doing here? Legal trouble. He is here to help me sue the French ministry. How do you know him? I ask, looking at the now petrified Garvey. I should leave. Garvey stands up, gathering the documents as he walks out of the house in a quick manner without a farewell. I shrug as Narcissa walks in and meets eye to eye with Auntie, causing an eerie feeling in the room. I close the door loudly, causing everyone to turn to me. I give the four a smile. Let's talk over food. Lunch is done, right? They nod as everyone makes their way to the dining room. I set the table as everyone is sitting down. Where is Sis? I ask as I set the plate in front of Auntie. She was called in for oral duties. She says, giving me a small smile. It's quite impressive your daughter was able to become an auror. It's a career mother or father never would have supported. Narcissa says with an unreasonably diplomatic face. Yes, they would never have let us do such ambitious things, we are only women after all, Auntie says with a joking smile. I always did think their traditions were rather misinformed. If I hadn't already had feelings for Lucius before our marriage, perhaps I would have been the one to run away. She says, smiling at Lucius. Although, I don't think I would have chosen a muggle-born. She says, turning to Uncle Ted, who doesn't look comfortable. Edward is a good man, Auntie says with a serious glare. Lucius holds a hand in front of Narcissa. I am sure, we can speak in private later to perhaps learn more about each other. I believe you made the right choice, family is who you choose after all, correct? He says, looking at me for validation, and I just give him a thumbs up. After I finish setting out food, I sit down at the head of the table since they chose to sit across from each other. Let's eat, shall we? Chapter 98, The Docks. After lunch, Narcissa and Auntie talked more and Uncle Ted talked with Lucius a bit while day drinking. I pulled out a book and kept my nose out of things, only stopping when they were about to leave. I waved goodbye as Auntie closed the door behind them, letting a long sigh as she did. See, that wasn't so bad, I say with a grin. Auntie rolls her eyes. I forgot how exhausting my sister is. Uncle sits on the couch as he grabs Arthur and leans back, obviously tired. He wasn't as dreadful as you like to say, honey. Humph, that was his best behavior. How did you do it, Soren? She asks with a curious face. I give a cocky smirk. I can be quite convincing. Auntie rolls her eyes again as she sits next to Uncle and leans her head on his shoulder. So, should we actually forgive them for the misery they put us through? Uncle puts his head on hers as he shrugs. I mean, it wasn't even that bad for us. It was really more about the emotional turmoil, but I think we are past that by now. Not to mention Lucius and I agreed on a lot of things politically, just not on Muggleborns, but he was strongly avoiding the subject. Auntie nods. He knows a surprising amount about Muggles. I wonder why. I shrug as his eyes meet mine. Perhaps he actually wants to make it up to you. Auntie sighs. I still can't believe it. Later that night I brought Proda to the Forest of Boland to test whether or not I can use Dementors to build the tower competently. Once we reach the area where I have everything set up, I walk inside the tent looking for the smallest slab. They are all exactly the same size, so I give up and point at the one closest to the entrance. Try and bring that stone to the top of the ridge. Proda stares at me for a second before turning to the stone. His bony hands reach to the stone as he tries using his meager telekinesis to lift it, to no avail. I nod as I expected this. I walk in front of the stone, rubbing my chin as I wave him off. You can go back to defending Ait. With my words, he flies off back towards the house. I take my shadows and try to lift the stone myself. Much to my surprise, I can get it a good amount off the ground, but I start to feel tired after only a few seconds of holding it up. I set it down as I take a deep breath. It appears I can actually do this in a decent amount of time. It will just be incredibly tiring. It should be doable with the floating charm. I just have to be careful to not pass out. I apparate home as I plan my attacks on the noble houses that hold Death Eaters. It would be national news if I started butchering nobles in their own houses, so I plan to go after the people under them. I go through the report Rita did on the trade between the noble houses. Once I get a location of their warehouse, I decide to check it out myself. I won't make a move unless I have to, though. I apparate again to northern Wales, outside a small village where there is a massive steel warehouse. I use my shroud to cover myself so I appear invisible. I calmly walk onto the dockside warehouse and see around 50 normal-looking men loading crates onto a ship. But once I cross an invisible barrier, the scene changes. There are now only around 20 men, and the workers are now obviously men in robes and masks carrying large crates with magic, gently moving them with flicks of their wands. My curiosity gets the best of me, so I get closer. I want to see what is inside one of the crates. I calmly walk past the men loading the ship and make my way into the warehouse. Once inside I see men loading in statues and cursed items into boxes at quantities I thought undoable. Does that mean the entire warehouse is full of dark artifacts and cursed items? I think to myself as I walk off to a remote area of the warehouse. I walk up to a particularly large box with slots in the sides and try to open it. Seeing that it is tightly shut, I use my cloak to get between the cracks and quietly pry it open. My eyes widen and my blood boils as I see what is inside. 3 children who look no older than 5 are laying on the ground sleeping under some sort of spell. Their clothes are dirty like they have been here for a while. I quickly get on a knee and check their pulse, feeling that they are still alive. I feel the darkness in my mind boiling to the surface. I cannot let a single man leave alive today, or I will be unsatisfied for life. I give a sigh of relief as I stand up and look towards the dock workers still bringing in. I calm myself as maybe the workers don't know they are shipping children. I quickly sneak up on one who is alone smoking a pipe, watching the rest work. I wrap sin around his face as I pull him off the box he was sitting on. My cloak covers his body, making him lose strength. He glares at me with confusion and hatred in his eyes. I hold his throat, gesturing for him to be quiet. I pull down sin from his nose. Yell and you die, I say, waiting for him to nod. After a second he does, and I pull sin down from his mouth. I point at the crate I just opened towards the corner of the warehouse. What is in that crate? He looks confused. Cattle. Are you an Auror? My expression is stone as I increase pressure on his neck. What kind of cattle? Muggles, for dark arts of course. He says matter-of-factly. My eyes narrow. Wrong answer. I cover his mouth and nose with sin again as my shroud covers his body without me ordering it. When my shroud falls off of him, his skin is grey and worn as if he aged 100 years, but I ignore it as I drop his now dead body. I stand tall as I shift into my Dementor form, growing to 10 feet tall as I hover off the ground. My shroud that was covering me falls as I see the terrified faces of all the wizards working on the docks. I rush forward quickly, swiping at the nearby loading dock workers, crushing them. The 10 bodies are revealed as my cloak recedes, exposing their crushed bodies to the other men in the warehouse. Ah! One screams as he turns to run. A tendril of shadows rises from my cloak, rushes forward and pierces his throat. He drops dead, gurgling blood at the front of the hangar-style doors. 3 of the braver men shoot green beams of magic at me, which my cloak blocks, wrapping them, sapping their strength. Tendrils shoot out from the sides of the wrapped-up men, piercing and killing the surrounding 5. The few on the outside hear the commotion and come running in. What happened? The leading one asks as my tendrils pierce forward, killing the 2 men on both sides of him. He looks at their dead bodies, terrified, as he points his wand at me. Expecto Patronum, he yells as a white net of light flies at me. I shift into my human form covered by my black shroud as I swing my wand at him. Sectum Sempra. Like a sword, his arm is cut off at the shoulder and the white net passes over my head harmlessly. I shift back into my Dementor form, rushing forward, grabbing the one-armed man by the neck. Talk, where are the kids from? Don't kill me, I'm just a pawn. He yells in a shrill voice and a thick accent. Don't make me repeat myself. The village, we take the orphans to sell, their blood makes great youth potions. He says, fear in his eyes. I'll let you die quickly, but not kindly. I say as I open my mouth and begin tearing at his soul. His eyes widen as he tries to fight back, but he is helpless. He shakes once the light of his soul leaves his lips and drops dead once it enters my mouth. I devour the souls of the 3 that I covered in my shroud not long ago as well. I feel queasy as if the souls I just ate were expired sardines. I shrug off the feeling as I carve the words, "The wicked shall be punished," into the wall of the warehouse. Going back to human form covered by my shroud still, I make a hole in the ward as I fire a few powerful curses into the ocean to signal the ministry someone is doing dark magic here. Once I see Aurors begin to apparate and I leave quickly. Chapter 99, Hagrid Escort Service. Only a few hours later I head down to eat breakfast with the family. Today seems to be a rare occasion. Sis is actually already sitting at the table eating. I sit down across from her. So what's the special occasion? I ask with a joking smile. She smiles. Well, actually, today is the first day Shacklebolt is letting me go to an investigation by myself. Apparently, some dark wizards were transporting dark artifacts from a dock in Wales. Last night Shacklebolt and a few others cleared the scene. I have to meet with the dock owners today. My brows raise and I look at the plate of food Auntie hands me. So who owns the dock? It's owned by a company joint owned by the Crabbe and Goyle family. I doubt they will get convicted of anything though. There would need to be extremely airtight evidence to lock up a noble for something so small to them. She says, obviously annoyed. After I get done eating I head back upstairs and pull out my notebook to finish the spell. I don't think I'll be going on any more missions until the summer. According to the Dark Wizard's memories, they were already on high alert due to Rita's article. They even made fake operations during the day to fool the first Auror investigators. Crabbe Sr. was overlooking it personally due to the heightened alert. It's too bad he wasn't there last night. After what happened last night I doubt they are going to keep operations at their current locations anyway. Putting away my journal I decide to take a break and go hang out with Lure in her pen. Sis put a ward around it to keep a good temperature even in the coming winter. The next few days I don't really do much besides work on the spell. I think it is done but I would have to see it used to know for sure. Today is the day Hagrid is coming by and picking me up to go back to Hogwarts. I wake up at my normal time since I decided to sleep last night after finishing the spell. Heading downstairs at around 9 I see Hagrid's giant figure already sitting at the table eating breakfast with Auntie and Uncle. Good morning everyone, I say sitting at the side of the table next to Hagrid who is at the foot. Are you ready? Hagrid asks as he eats half a bagel in a single bite. I nod. I already got my stuff packed in my pouch. I say as I pat my moleskin pouch. Auntie sets a plate of food in front of me. You two can leave after you eat. Of course you're the boss, Hagrid says with a smile as he takes another bite of shepherd's pie. I continue to eat my pie as Sis strolls down the stairs with a tired face. Uncle smiles at her sleepy face as she comes downstairs. Good she is awake. I'll be going now. It was nice to meet you Hagrid. Hagrid looks up from the food and clears his throat. It was nice to meet ya Ed. Uncle gives Auntie a hug before leaving while Sis sits next to me. Why so tired? I ask curiously. She lets out a long sigh. I spent all night giving my report on every single piece of evidence found in the warehouse. I didn't think it would be so hard, but some of the things found were difficult to return. She says with her head in her hands. I pat her back as Hagrid speaks up. It's nice to see ya again Miss Tonks. I know I'm late but congrats on your acceptance as an Auror. Sis looks at him with a tired smile. Thanks Hagrid. Are ya workin' on that warehouse in Wales? I hear that's some nasty business they been in. He says with a hard nod. She gives a small laugh. Nasty isn't the half of it, they are awful. I just look between the both of them while I scarf down breakfast. Hagrid shakes his head. So Soren, you ever ride a motorcycle before? He says turning to me looking to change the subject. I shake my head. No. Did you bring the bike? I ask with food in my mouth. Swallow your food before you speak, Auntie says with a glare. I nod my head as I swallow my food looking towards Hagrid. Yeah, think I'd go anywhere without ER? She's my pride and joy at this point. Do you wanna see Lure before we go? I'm sure if you're nice she will let you pet her. I say with a cheeky grin knowing that Lure only lets him near not touch. I'll go see ER with you but I'll keep a distance. He says with a small smile. I stand up having already demolished my pie. Hagrid stands as well as he grabs the rest of his pie with his hands. Alrighty then. Auntie follows us outside to pet Lure and Lure loves it. Too bad for Hagrid, she still doesn't want him to pet her. Hagrid sighs as he smiles. She sure is a beaut though, ain't she? I laugh as I pet her. She is indeed. I think we should be goin'. Don't wanna be late. I look at Hagrid confused. Late for what? He looks shocked. Lunch of course. I give him a surprised look. We just had breakfast. If you're still hungry there is more in the oven, Auntie adds with a grin. No thank you. I am quite all right. He says, basically sweating bullets. I laugh a bit as I hug Auntie. Well, bye until summer I guess. Auntie hugs me back. Are you sure you have everything? Books, notes, quills, spare clothes, your W. Auntie, I have everything, I say as I pull away. She sighs as she looks at Hagrid with a slight glare. Drive safe. Hagrid gives a wry smile. Course he gestures for me to follow around the side of the house. I parked over here. He says pointing to the side of the street. Our neighbors are all pretty far away so the entire end of the street near us is free parking. The bike stands out a lot as it is whitish silver with a sidecar attached to it. I frown as I don't look forward to sitting in the sidecar. It is like a tube with a hole in the top. It may be ugly but it does look comfy. Hagrid races into the sidecar and hands me a helmet with goggles. Safety first, Ed. I give him an odd look. What does a helmet help if I fall 500 feet? He holds up a finger. Actually, it's for birds. Buggers hurt when you take 'em to your head. He taps his head with his finger as he nods. I shrug as I put on the helmet and wave at Auntie who is standing by the front door waiting for us to leave. I hop in the sidecar and stretch out my legs. Surprisingly, the bottom of the car is entirely padded. The engine revs as Hagrid turns towards the street, going a few feet before the bike begins to go up at a slight incline. Once we are at a cruising height, Hagrid levels it out and we cruise at a pretty fast pace. The wind isn't nearly as bad as expected and I can hear Hagrid yell to me, "Keep your mouth closed or you'll eat a bug." I nod as I wasn't planning on talking anyway. I just daydream as I watch the landscape of forests, roads, and towns go by. Time must have gone by faster than I was thinking, because before long I see the rolling hills and mountains of Scotland. Chapter 100, Evil in Hogwarts. Once we peek over a large mountain, we begin to slow down as the castle comes into view and I can see the lake from an aerial view. To my surprise, I can see a massive shadow slowly moving beneath the lake. It has to be at least 100 feet long. As we near the ground near Hagrid's hut and the wind dies down, I ask Hagrid, "What is the giant squid doing in the lake?" Hagrid looks at me with a bit of surprise as the bike touches down. "I don't know. She's been there since I was young." I nod. "I guess you wouldn't know, hey?" "Say, Soren. I've been thinkin', the motorbike was your father's and I was only borrowing it. How about you take ER back when you are old enough?" I roll my eyes as I stand up out of the sidecar and stretch. "Nope. You can keep it, I'm sure that's what he would have wanted." Hagrid lets a breath out as he doesn't meet my eyes. We better head in before Hermione gets all fussy now." He stands up, taking his goggles off, putting them on the bike handlebar. "And where are they?" I ask curiously as I follow him. He doesn't turn back to face me, but I can tell he is grinning. "It's a secret," he says mysteriously. I follow Hagrid into the castle, ignoring the gazes from the other students. Some look apologetic or shamed, while the others still look fearful. Not that I care. Hagrid looks at me with a serious expression. "Ignore him." I smile at his concern. "It's fine, they are nobodies." He nods his head as he turns to the stairs and heads to the 4th floor. We enter the north wing with long hallways with classrooms and offices alike on both sides. My eyes narrow in confusion. Where are we going? He doesn't answer, instead smiles as we reach the end of the hall. He grabs the umbrella that seems tiny in comparison to his large body. He gently taps the wall twice and the stone bricks separate, revealing a large room with bright lights above and a huge wooden table. Inside I see all my friends: Dean, Ron, Harry, Daphne, Theo, Neville, Seamus, Hermione, and the twins. Once Hagrid steps inside, all eyes fall on us. "Soren!" Daphne and Hermione run over, giving me a hug. I smile as I hug them back. "It's only been like 2 weeks." Daphne quickly pulls away first as her face is basically dyed red. Hermione, however, pushes my shoulder when she releases the hug. "We were all worried about you, idiot." "I told you guys I'd be fine," I say with a confident grin. Hermione rolls her eyes as Theo steps forward. "Glad to see you're back." I nod. "Glad to be back." Harry and Ron peek past Theo and Hermione. "We got cake." I laugh a bit. "What for?" "The welcome back party, of course," the twins say in sync. "I would never turn down a free piece of cake," I say with a smile. "But I have to ask, how did you find this room?" "The twins found it," Hermione says, looking back at the two who are already cutting the cake moments after talking about it. "For the next 2 hours, we eat cake and talk. I tell them about the lawsuit I'm bringing against the French ministry. Basically, all of them fall over when they hear the amount I am suing for. Especially the Weasleys. The twins tell me all the pranks they did on Fartlock in my honor. They said it was free of charge, but if I wanted to I could fund their shop if I wanted to. Apparently, they plan to make this room into a hangout area with a shop on the side. They will be selling trick items and potions. They already have a few products ready, but they need to wait till winter to get more supplies." Seamus got back together with his Slytherin girlfriend and Dean started dating her friend. Harry told me about the Whisper coming back and Miss Norris was petrified. That said, the Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the heir beware. He, Hermione, and Ron had been brainstorming who the heir could be. Apparently, I was the first thought among the students, but I wasn't here, so they singled out Harry. The trio themselves think that it is actually Draco. They all get mad when I laugh at their assertion. Daphne agrees with me, she still thinks Draco is too weak to be the heir. I agree with that sentiment, but I know this is probably the scheme Voldemort set up when he gave Lucius the journal. They are sure to tell me the password before we begin leaving. Once everyone begins to leave, I hand the twins a few galleons so they can start their shop with me owning 50/50ths of Weasley wares. I tell the rest I have to go hand in my homework and leave them alone. That wasn't a lie, I will drop off my homework, after I'm done with my business. The gang went to go eat lunch, but I'm not hungry after breakfast and a piece of cake, so I head back to the dorms. I stand on the stairs before the entrance of the girls' dorm. I see a girl coming out and looking at me with a surprised gaze. I give her a smile. Hey, is Ginny in there? I give the kindest smile I can. The girl blushes as she nods. She is. Do you need her? I nod. Could you get her for me? Please. She looks a bit shy but nods her head anyway. Sure. She says, turning away quickly without meeting my eyes. Only a minute or two later Ginny comes out with a surprised look. Soren. I give her a smile as I look at the girl behind her. Can we talk in private? She looks back at the other girls who are giggling before nodding sure. We both head downstairs and go to the study room that is just down the hall. The study rooms are usually empty since no one really studies. And those that do go to the library since it is more efficient anyway. Ginny sits down after I do and looks at me confused. What do you need, Soren? I sigh as I hold out a hand. Give me the journal. She looks utterly shocked and tries to collect herself. What do you mean, Soren? The diary. I know you have it. My gaze turns serious. I Dawn. That night Mrs. Norris was petrified. You woke up with blood on your hands and robes, right? I ask, trying to not sound too harsh. Her face shows utter shock. She looks as if she wants to turn into a bug and hide in a crack in the wall. She begins stuttering and breathing hard, her words incoherent. The diary is a dark artifact. I assumed that you were possessed and did those things without knowing it. He wouldn't do that. He is my friend. She stands up and yells defensively. The answer to what the book is clicks in my head. I look at her as if looking at the biggest fool in the world. Your friend is the soul of a dark wizard. Not only that, it's the soul of freaking Voldemort, you weirdo, I think to myself, but I resist keeping myself from saying it aloud. Hand the book over before it leaves permanent damage to your soul, I say, getting a bit angry. What will you do with it? She asks, calming down a little. I will try to destroy it. If I can't, I will hand it over to Dumbledore. Her eyes narrow. Why don't you just hand it over to Dumbledore? I shake my head. Dumbledore will not be there for us forever. Her face is filled with sadness as she pulls out a book from under her outer robes. It is thin with an old worn black leather cover with gold trim. At the bottom was the name Tom Marvolo Riddle in golden letters. As she goes to hand me the book, I can see her eyes glaze over as I hear a voice coming from between us. Don't hand him the book. My eyes narrow and I quickly snatch the book from her far faster than a normal 12 could move. So you can talk. Silence fills the air as Ginny gasps for air, staring in fear at the book.
Thanks for listening.